Just a sec.
Okay.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, 22 CR 117. Can I have counsel identify themselves, starting with the Commonwealth?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your
Good
Honor.
morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also on behalf of Ms.
Good
Reed.
morning, Ms. Little.
And good morning, Your Honor. Attorney David Yannetti on behalf of Karen Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Yannetti. Good morning, Ms. Reed. I figured I'd come out for a minute before we brought the jurors over. So I did get the pleadings last night that were filed yesterday. On the statement of the case, the defendant wants me to add, the defendant contends that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were suffered as the result of a physical altercation with another person or persons and not from being struck by Ms. Reed's vehicle. The defendant denies that she has committed any of the crimes alleged in this case. I'll give the last sentence. I'm not going to give the other sentence because Ms. Reed's presumed innocent and has no burden of proof, and I would be assigning her a burden of proof, and I'm not going to do that. Based on the offer of proof on Friday, I am well within my rights pursuant to the case law to exclude the third-party culprit defense. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to give you a chance to develop it through relevant, competent, admissible evidence, but you cannot open on it. So that's my ruling on that. I would like to see counsel at sidebar about the supplemental questionnaire.
Welcome to the Young Jerks. Mike Crawford here. Just so much to talk about in the Karen Reed case happening today. Jury selection, second day, day 2. Hopefully we're going to have Jessica Machado on the show later tonight. She has been reporting from the jury deliberation, not the deliberations. They haven't even, the jury selection, excuse me. She's been reporting from court, and yesterday was there for the first day. Hopefully we're going to get her up on the show today, but I wanted to start off and kick off with just that little video right there, because that tells a lot about what's going to happen in court upcoming with Karen Reed. And it's about the third-party defense that we've been talking about, that Kevin said that the defense would never actually raise before the jury, when that's been their whole case. It's been their whole case. He said the whole case is a hoax and that they would never actually present it. Well, it seems like the judge agrees with it, partially at least, not for the opening, which I'm kind of disappointed on. I think it's going to be Karen Reed's defense fighting with one arm tied behind their back, but I think their defense team is so good that they'll be fine with it. So there's a lot happening there, but the judge, Beverly Canoni, said she was going to allow a third-party defense, but not as part of the opening, which is, but again, so much is happening. Remember when Kevin said there was nothing happened with the federal grand jury? Remember when Kevin said that they would never do a third party? Kid talks a lot of crap, but when it comes down to it, things aren't going his way, it looks like. But we have some guests. We have our friend returning back on the show. Let's bring him up right now. And again, we have a lot of videos. I want to know in the chat, what videos do you want to see tonight? Because I've got the Tom interviewing Channel 25 reporter Ted Daniel. I got Turtle Boy versus Grant. I got more court stuff where Bev Canone goes through the witness list, potential witness list. We're going to be talking about witness list tonight. But right now I have Mazza Media. What I want to know is what videos, or is there anything that we haven't even talked about yet that I haven't mentioned from the videos that you'd like to see on the show tonight? Like who's got the good coverage? That's another question I want to ask Mazza Media and everyone in the chat tonight.
Good evening, Mike. How are you?
Good. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great tonight. I'm excited to be back on the show, and I was just looking over the clip of actually Turtle Boy's clip of Karen Reed exiting court today, and it's nice to know that a lot of the rumors have been that Karen hasn't acknowledged Turtle Boy lately, but that's all been proven false because on the way out of court today, Karen Reed acknowledged not only Turtle Boy but Paul Cristoforo, as well as Tommy himself. And tonight, this afternoon, was a great, really nice slap in the face of all the naysayers that might be saying negative things about Karen and how much she cares about all of us, and that how much she, how much she admires everything that we do as a collective whole. And I just watched that clip from Turtle Boy, and you see Karen acknowledged Paul, acknowledged Turtle Boy, acknowledged Tommy, and it's you saw that gratefulness, and just they try to make it seem like everything we're doing is for naught, but it's just not true. Karen appreciates everything we do, and when you watch her walk out of court, just like any other time, you just see a woman that you cannot possibly ever fathom, whether voluntarily or even involuntarily, um, killing John O'Keefe. And furthermore, it's clear that she didn't do it intentionally. And additionally, if it was involuntary, you don't see an ounce of guilt in her that suggests that, oh, I may have killed him by accident. It's just not true. You can tell that she is consciously free of that and knows that this is a cover up. And just once again, every time I see her, I just get that reaffirmation in my mind that this is an innocent woman who knows she's innocent, who knows this is a cover up. And that's where I'm kicking it off tonight, Mike. Back to you.
Yeah, it's today definitely you could see the confidence walking out. Did you get to keep up with everything that was happening today in the court in terms of third party reporting?
Yeah, I caught up with a bit of it. I didn't get to catch all of it this afternoon. It seemed a little quiet. There wasn't too much footage. I didn't see any footage inside today that I even recall. And I mostly spent, of course, while I'm working, I keep tabs on Tommy's stream all day. I kind of have it on low volume. And from time to time, when I get a little break or something, I can kind of tune in a little bit. But yeah, I caught a bit of it.
Now, MJ, one of our mods, I believe that's our mod. Let's see the wrench there.
I
It's
heard
funny.
about this.
She said video of Tom CPU and Dolly Vision encounter. I
Yeah,
didn't see that. What did
that's
you hear about
on
this? What is this
that's
about?
on Dolly Vision's YouTube page.
And how
Like
did that go? Like what was the nature of it?
Tommy approached Dolly, and Dolly was just accusing Tom of making all these comments about him online, which were not true. It was actually someone else that had made those comments about him. And just essentially, Tom, being the great man he is, likes to speak with everyone, regardless of their, opinions and stances. And he just seemed a little, he didn't seem too open to Tom, is all I really have to say about that. I'm going to try to track down the footage. I think it was his day. He's got a lot of videos, but yeah, he didn't seem too open to Tom and too what have you about him, too favorable in that sense. So, but yeah, he kept making statements that Tom made a comment about him, but Tom did not. I believe someone else did, and he just interpreted that as being Tom that said that, but that was not. Tom even denies, like, I didn't say anything negative about you. I think he was calling him a troll. That's what it was. He goes, a troll, and he goes, I didn't call you a troll, Dolly. I just found out who the guy was myself yesterday. He was the Glare had talked
Yeah.
about him being on his way, and that he was, basically someone of value system that was the opposite of most of us. So no, that's what I got on him. So there's always a whole bunch of new personalities coming out every day, I guess, that are opposed to our viewpoints. So
They brings out all the crazies out of the woodwork.
yeah.
Everyone wants to be a star. Everyone wants to be Turtle Boy. Everyone it's so funny.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, you know, it's just great to have Turtle Boy back in action. Just seeing him out there, mixing it up with Grant. Yesterday was hilarious. That was just funny with the aunt and everything, and the aunt blowing Turtle Boy a kiss. And um, the funniest
Ooh.
part was when Grant actually went after Meredith and one of the Canton Nine, and she just said, "Well, I actually have a job, unlike you, Grant." That was I almost hit the ground laughing. That was so funny. That was
Oh,
hilarious. Yeah,
he's so easy to put down. It's like, come on,
yeah.
dude. You
Well,
think
he
he's
tries to. Yeah, he tries to be a Turtle Boy, alternative version of Turtle Boy from the opposite perspective, but he just got totally outclassed by Turtle Boy in their head-to-head showdown yesterday. He couldn't even get a word in edgewise. He didn't have his typical Grant bravado, and Turtle Boy just walked. Turtle Boy is just better than he is at this stuff. So
Yeah, we've definitely got to play that. He had some very telling faces that Grant made, which was very interesting. We're gonna play that video. Before we do, because we got some other video to play, but I just played probably the biggest news of yesterday, and we broadcast it live. It was just stunning to see Judge Bev come out, and the first thing that she said was, "I'm going to allow it, but I'm not going to allow it." The third party
oh, the culprit. Yeah.
defense, yeah, the culprit defense. So, I mean, it's basically the defense's entire defense. She's basically saying, "I'm going to kind of let you defend yourself, but not even in your opening statements." Which is, what did you think about it all?
It's just like I said, one hand tied behind your back. And I got the dolly footage, by the way. I'm gonna get that over to you in Messenger on
I don't
X.
even know if I want to see
You,
that. I don't think
you don't
that's
want?
really, yeah, it's
That's
like
okay.
whatever. It's like,
I'll send it anyways. We
yeah,
don't have to watch it, but I'll send it anyway. All
yeah.
right.
It's a
Yeah. So
sideshow. I
yeah, it
think
is.
if we're gonna do sideshow, I think we'll do Grant sideshow.
There we go. That
We'll
makes sense
play
to
that a little later. Go ahead,
me.
but go ahead on the big stuff, the third party culprit.
Yeah, it's just a way of, well, I'll say this first and foremost. I don't want anyone to lose any confidence over that, because here's the thing, ultimately this whole trial, one way or another, is really just going to be what it is, which is all about declaring Karen Reed as innocent or guilty, right? And ultimately, the ability to declare Karen Reed innocent is not out of the question here. It's just going to be a more restricted path with a few more obstacles, a few more things that they can and cannot say, but they'll be able to still talk about the taillight. And I don't know what other parties they'll be able to go after, such as Michael Proctor or whatnot, but that of and in its own, questions such as when she left, admissible as evidence, her leaving to go find John O'Keefe. The taillight is intact. The taillight is glowing red. And I think, I'll be honest with you, I think you can make a whole case to a jury right off that alone. Now, you can always go far further than you need to, which you always should, which is perfectly fine. But I'll just say, like, from a minimal, to have a perspective from a minimal, I don't can't say the word tonight, a minimal
Minimum,
perspective. Yeah,
yeah.
minimum perspective. If you just had that information alone, with that video alone, that is enough to convince a jury that at least there's reasonable doubt here. So there's an ability to just say, hey, look, there she is. She went looking for him. The taillight's intact. It's no more than cracked. It's glowing red. Here she is leaving. This is after the alleged time that the Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor states in his report that the taillight was at some point shattered when it was, at the scene of the crime. So that those are the things that she can still use to her favor. So realistically, what's great is all of the key points essentially that Karen Reed's team needs to prove her innocence are still on the table here. The only thing that's really discouraging is the ability to finger point and say, 2:27 a.m. I don't know if that's going to be even allowed anymore with this third party call. Are they going to be able to allowed to point the finger across at Jen and say, hey, she Googled this, she Googled that? Are they going to start to really restrict that kind of talk? But still, there's more than enough information. John O'Keefe's Apple Health data, for example, still on the table from what I understand. If they want to look at that, have the data experts. I think the Google expert is coming, and he was one of the witnesses. So to me, it sounds like that 2:27 a.m. Google search would still be on the table, but you still have the Apple Health data. The the Apple Health data that shows that he was in the house. He went up and down 3 floors. That's still on the table. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not sure if I said this the last time I was on this show or the last time I did a show, but I'd say this: there's more than enough to prove to a jury that there is considerable or reasonable doubt that Karen Reed was not guilty of this at a voluntary or involuntary level. And That is good. Now it's not going to, I guess sometimes we always want everything we want, like we want the feds to come in, we want them to make arrests. That hasn't happened up till this point. We want this to go to trial. We want certain people to be found out as guilty, but that has not happened yet. So the thing that we have to focus on primarily is the primary issue here, or the primary focus here, is at this particular time Karen Reed, because ultimately Karen Reed's freedom is on the line. And everything else, as much as we'd like to obtain that, the most important part of this is Karen Reed's freedom and her being declared innocent. That's the number one thing we have to achieve above all else. And that might sound a little disappointing to say, because I know we want to go the whole 9 yards in this thing and see a lot of people go down, but we can't at any costs let Karen Reed go to jail over a crime she did not commit. And that comes first, and that comes foremost, in my opinion, before everything else. So if we can't get them in this trial for third parties that might have been involved, if we can't get them here, that doesn't mean that also can't be something that comes down the road from a federal level, where there's a federal investigation, even if it's months or years down the road, where they come back and peel into this again and start to go after those other parties. So that's just my take. It's disappointing to a degree, but it is not a death blow for Karen and her defense team. It just makes it a little bit more, I think Ted Daniel even alluded to that. It just makes it a little bit more complex, but it's not, I don't think it's borderline impossible.
Now we have been putting some of the witnesses, potential witnesses, the first 3 slides of the defenses. I only have 2. I don't know why I didn't get the 3 slides for the prosecution. But what I thought, a couple things interesting on these witness lists. Definitely Karen Reed is bringing some experts. That's number one. Oh, it looks like we have Jessica here too. Want to check in with Jessica, and then we can talk about witness lists too.
Go right ahead, Mike.
We can talk about that a little bit later. We're going to talk about witness list definitely, but I want to see if Jessica's available right now. She just popped in. Hey, Jessica.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's okay. You're right on time. And I'm sure you've been busy today as well. So you're always working. We're talking about potential witnesses because they went over that at court yesterday.
Yes.
And a bunch of information got dropped. But I would just like you to introduce yourself to everyone. Who are you? And tell us about yesterday.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Machado. I work for a media company down in Bristol County called Fall River Reporter. I also have a sister media company called the New Bedford Guide. And I have been tasked with covering the Turtle Boy cases as well as the Karen Reed cases. There's a big interest down here, obviously everywhere, nationwide. But I'm really lucky to be able to have a company that supported me heading over there. So I've been following the case, obviously, since its start. I've been following the Aiden cases that are adjacent to this very closely. And I've attended most of the hearings for Aiden over since his incarceration, I guess, back in December. And the Karen Reed cases for the past couple of months in person. So I was there yesterday for the first day. I didn't know if you want me to get into it, but it was definitely, exciting day, even considering it's a somber reason to be there. But there was a little bit of, I thought, of a frenzied feel surrounding the whole day. As I was driving in, there were helicopters hovering up above, so that was like really interesting. And then just the press overall, the presence of Court TV and these mainstream media outlets really added to the elevated kind of excitement of the space and time. So it was a different experience than the other hearings I had been to. Obviously, there was a lack of support. There was a small group of people who I believe, I still haven't really been able to confirm, but I think these were people that were lined up to be able to go into the courtroom should they allow people to come in. But all of the other supporters were outside the area. There were a lot of barricades that weren't there before, a state police presence that wasn't there before. Even local police on the side streets were kind of in place. But it was a very calm, area surrounding the space. It wasn't a lot. Parking was easier, that's for sure, than previously. And then, of course, just a large media presence, people bringing in their trucks and all of their equipment. They have a different vetting process when you come in. So we're on a list. You have to check in, you show your credentials and your photo ID. Apparently, they're going to be doing that every day. Whereas before they checked you just one time, and the core officers there are pretty familiar with who's been going, so no checking in. But this is supposed to have been done every day. So for me, I have to kind of weigh my options to going to court on a daily basis. I'm an hour out. So I knew today was going to be more of the same with jury selection. So I figured wasn't going to miss much today. And yesterday was just, watching Bev work the room with all of those people in there. She's very pleasant to all of the people there, very thankful for them, taking time away from their lives to be there. She talked about the process and what it means to be a juror. And I thought she gave a lot of explaining as far as the process to let people know. Very interesting to see how some people were super engaged and some people were not. Some people were falling asleep. Some people had their heads in their hands and slouched down, but then there were other people that were, listening very intently. And I can, elaborate more, but one of the biggest, moments that I thought of the day was Bev had asked everybody to introduce themselves. So Lally and his assistant DA turned and spoke to everybody there, introduced themselves. Karen's team introduced themselves. And at the end, they said, and we represent, this woman, Karen Reed. And she stood up and turned and looked at everybody and smiled. And I thought that was a very poignant moment to see her turn and face everybody. Obviously, people there would potentially determine her fate. So it was very interesting to watch that happen.
And you also, were you there when Bev announced that she was going to allow, the third party?
Yes. So, in the beginning, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've never attended one of these before. Again, I'm green to this. I just started my job here. I've been an on-air radio host, so that's my background. I did some freelance writing for Fall River Reporter and some other media outlets, but it was really based in like political reporting. So I'm new to this. I don't know what to expect. And so, yeah, I think one of my takeaways too, by the way, Mike, is a lot of these reporters are there and a lot of them don't know who the players are, and so while there is some new coverage and, mainstream media coming, I think they're playing catch up for you, for me, for Mr. Mazza Media here. I don't know his real name. I don't know what his actual Mark. We all know this story and we know the players and we know it well. I guess we take that for granted a little bit. Not a lot of people know who. I saw somebody on one of these media teams Googling Yannetti, you know what I mean? So they could figure out who he was in the room. So when Bev did say that, it looked like it was a compromise. You know what I mean? Like that they were going to allow it. Just judging by body language, I think they looked okay and comfortable with that. Karen's team, at least. To me, it sounded and looked like it was a compromise that they were going to be able to, not rule this out, but that they were going to have to get creative with how I think she's probably going to be pretty strict about what she's going to allow, though. I think it's setting the tone.
That's what I'm worried about. But how did the prosecution look? Because we saw the defense. The camera was on them, so we could see them. But what we couldn't see is like Adam Lally. How did they act when she made that decision?
I was really looking at Karen's team, to be frank with you. Lally seemed as he does every other time I've been there. I always feel he looks a little frazzled. If I'm judging by body language, Karen's team is calm, cool, and collected, confident. I always feel Lally is just a little discombobulated. I mean, we're not talking Ken Mello discombobulated, like that other level, or of unpreparedness. But there's just a difference between the two, as far as I'm concerned. The Commonwealth and the female there, is it McLaughlin or McCaughlin? I think her name is. She's fine, but Lally just kind of looks hurried, I guess. When he comes in, he's hurried. Karen's team kind of saunters in slowly, and Lally kind of like is hurried when he comes in.
Absolutely. That's a good description. What we didn't see was the actual jury selection. You were there for that part of it, right?
Yes. So how it worked is everybody who went, and so I was counting them as they came in. So the courtroom was completely empty, aside from the press, court officers, and Karen Reed's team. So Karen Reed's brother was at the back of the courtroom. He was not with her, but he was allowed in the back. And I did ask somebody if they could identify another individual there, and I heard he is a victim witness advocate. So I don't know who he is specifically, but the courtroom was completely empty. At one point, they opened the doors and they just filled every single seat. So I started counting a little late. I counted 89 people. I heard someone say they were closer to 100, but they filled the room. It's an extremely diverse group. So men, women, African American, white, Asian. There's just complete diverse group, age range, young, old. And then again, like I said before, people with interest, people that look like they wanted to get out of there. So everybody has a card and it has a number on it. They weren't seated in number order. They were just holding their cards. And then they were going to be asked questions. And they had to raise their number if they said yes to a question. So, for example, one of the questions was, are you familiar with this case? Have you heard it? I would believe the majority of the room held up. As they hold up that number, the room is split in half by an aisle. A court officer on one side reads out loud every single number. And then the other one on the other side reads every number and they're marking that down. And then they ask another question and they same thing. And they go through that process after they ask the questions. And by the way, this was for me. And if you hadn't seen the list of the potential witnesses, this is how you knew who they were. So Judge Bev read every single name on the list for the Commonwealth and for the defense team of potential witnesses. And she asked if you had, and I don't know the exact wording, but it was, are you familiar with, have you any interaction with these people or what have you, and read every single solitary name. And then when the names were done, some people actually raised their cards that they had some sort of affiliation or connection to the people that were on that list. Not many, I would say maybe a dozen or so. So then they went through the list and then they said they were going to get the questionnaire. I haven't been able to check, but I heard that that was released today. They got a questionnaire. They gave them pens. The judge left and they worked on their questionnaires. And then it took a long time for the judge to come back. And during that time, people started to get a little antsy. I heard court officers say, you know, you're not allowed to take out your phones. Please put your phones away. You know, you're really not supposed to converse with people. A lot of them took advantage of the time for a bathroom break. They went out to the bathroom behind the judge's chambers, not in the regular public area. And then she came back and they basically said, we're going to start going through jurors one by one. So they call a sidebar. So Karen's team in the Commonwealth went up to where Bev was. She actually just kind of turned her seat and moved over to the side. They called the first one over. It happened to be number one. I don't know exactly what order they ended up going into. And she had a conversation with each one of them. We're not allowed to obviously have any cameras on during that time. We could not hear any of the conversation. And then they moved that first person out. It was very intimate and it took a lot of time. I mean, it wasn't like a 30-second chat. So I don't know exactly what it entailed. And at that point, once I recognized that that was the process, I saw that this was going to take quite some time. I knew they were going to take a break for lunch. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to call it quits for today. I think they had moved on to like the third person by the time I stepped away. And I heard that they had seated 4 as of yesterday. So I don't know what the results are for today. Maybe you guys know more than me.
I heard there were like 7 more, I think.
That's
maybe.
great.
Yeah, I got a total of 11 right
Yeah,
now.
Okay.
Is what I was
11.
hearing. Yep. So 4 yesterday and 7 today is the total number. Now I was hearing that they were going to get 6 reserve jurors. And now I'm
Alternates.
hearing it's 4 alternates. Yeah. Now I'm hearing it's only going to be 4. Did you hear anything about that today? 'Cause
On my
NBC
way
10
out, I asked a court officer just what to expect, and he said there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes you get 4 or 5 in a row. Sometimes you don't. You go, 4 or 5 people, and you don't get any. And he did say that there were going to be 6 alternates. But that was yesterday. I don't know,
Yesterday,
if
yeah.
he's a reliable source for that. But that's what he said
Yeah.
on my way out.
Yeah,
No.
NBC 10 Boston was saying 6 alternates yesterday, but today all I'm hearing online is 4. Everyone was saying. So back to you, Mike. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Jessica, when you sat and listened to the questioning of those like 3 potential jurors? Did those people get excluded, or did any of them get picked?
The ones that I saw in the beginning, I assumed they got excluded. So I was not present when any got seated. So someone who was there may be able to tell you what the process was, if they actually stayed in the room or where they went. I mean, I maybe probably left a little too prematurely.
Did
You
you
know, I
did you
go
hear
ahead.
them getting asked questions? Like, were they being asked about their background, their
I
thoughts?
could
Like,
not hear anything from where we were seated.
okay, so that
Not
was
at
kind of
all.
like done privately, and the press didn't get to
It
kind of.
was. So another thing that I think I was actually trying to listen to you guys as I was driving home. So Court TV or whoever had the pool camera yesterday, if it was Court TV or I'm not sure who it was, they had it set up and they were live streaming in the room prior to the jury coming in or court being in session. So there was footage of Karen in there. And at one point, a woman came over and told them that they could not have that camera going. So at some point, if you know, they turned the camera over to the clock above the
Yeah.
judge's bench, right? And it was just there
Yeah.
perpetually. And at one point, that woman turned around and she said, you know, we're not going to stay here for any of the jury selection. If we can't have this camera on, we're not going to stay. So they left very shortly thereafter before the jury came in. They were not back today from what I heard. And you know, there's the rules about media are pretty strict. I did have somebody inbox me today asking for a court order that said something about no live tweeting. I never saw that. I know myself and Ted Daniel were live tweeting from inside. And that camera ended up, you know, saying, hey, we're not going to stick around. Some of these media outlets are sent here for the whole duration. Like I heard some of them saying what hotels they're staying at and things like that. So I don't know, but they shut their camera off and they left very early. They weren't there at all. So, and that it sounds like they weren't there again today. You could not hear anything or see anything in the separate email that we received, the media received. We do have a Zoom link that we were not allowed to share publicly, but that we can use. And I don't know if anybody else can access it. So I could have logged on to that today. I chose not to. But during that time, I believe that they mute what you can hear if there's a sidebar. You can't normally hear anything. But I can tell you the acoustics in the room, we could not hear a thing. It was a very close, they were all standing close together. I will tell you, actually, interestingly enough, the judge put a mask on when she went and spoke close to these people. So I noticed that actually for that first person, she put her mask on.
Now, people are in the chat asking about some other reporters. One who's somewhat credible, Gretchen Voss. Did you have any interaction with her yesterday? Did she realize she
Who is
wasn't?
she?
She's a reporter for Boston Magazine that wrote a story that was kind of 50-50, but not really. I think it was more McAlbert, honestly. But she is now a witness apparently, and she wasn't supposed to be there, and she left early. I don't know if you.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. The very Ken looking man from Court TV was in the press box with us for a little while. There was a woman on the side of me. I asked her who she was with. She said NBC, but that she wasn't a reporter. And she had a notebook and she was taking some notes. And I think I did a recap yesterday on my drive home, and I talked about how in order to get the documents that had been filed recently, the guys, whoever these guys are, I don't know who they are. They're TV and media guys. They went downstairs and got hard copies of them paper. I know well enough that if I need a court document, I'm going to the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe Facebook page. And there are guys that upload those documents as soon as they come in. So I can see a digital copy. Now, if I need to go to press with something, I will try to authenticate it through the court. But for, just general conversation, I depend on those documents being uploaded in there. And the woman on the side of me, she didn't get a hard copy. Those guys didn't have it. So, I had it, and I just leaned over. I said, if you give me your email, I can send you this copy. I have it. And she said, sure. So I sent it to her. But then maybe 15 minutes later, one of the guys called over to her and he was like, hey, where did you get this digital copy? She had taken it and she sent it to all of those guys. And she was like, oh, well, it's from her. And they were asking me where I got it. They wanted to know about the Facebook group. I showed it to them. They had never seen it before. They were kind of saying they weren't sure they could use it because it was a Facebook group. So can they? I said, well, listen, I mean, look at your hard copy and look at the digital copy. They're identical. So, but these guys hadn't even been in that group before. So a little isolated from, I would say the fandom that is surrounding this case. But everybody, I will tell you, it's a very interesting environment. Not fans of Twitter, and we are obviously big fans of Twitter. A lot of these people don't like it. I heard somebody say Elon should have stuck to selling cars. Not big Trump fans. I hate to generalize, but the mainstream media is very liberal. And so, but we all got along in there just fine, but it's a different world, I think, for some of those guys.
I will say I don't like Trump, and I am what most people would consider liberal.
Yes.
And I don't think I would get along with them either.
Well, I mean, listen, we love Twitter, right? And I think that
I love
great things
Twitter. I think
right.
they don't like Twitters because they have to answer questions and they don't like it. They don't like have to, people calling them out on stuff. It's the beauty of Twitter. Twitter is the best place to reach people in power. It's way better than Facebook. That's why I am worried about Elon in a way, but it's actually turned out pretty good. I gotta, if I'm gonna give the guy criticism, I'll give him. I think it's actually working. What the craziness of Elon, I think, is actually working on Twitter. There's a liberal saying this now because there is something. I mean, there's a lot more hate, obviously, on there, but there's also a freedom that comes with it for people like us that want to talk to people in power, right?
Yeah, I think people just want to be able to say what they want with no restriction and, let people make decisions for themselves. We talked about this before. Let people decide. Give them all the info. Let them make their own decisions. Twitter's really the only place that you can do that, but you can tell a lot of these people aren't fans. So that was some of the chat that I was overhearing when I was in there.
So, interesting. The other question that came up that keeps coming up, there's lots of rumors about Grant Smith Ellis right now.
Yes.
Allegedly,
allegedly,
sources.
breaking news,
Shocking
sources
news.
say, many people are saying. Did you see anything with this guy yesterday? Did you have any interactions with him? Did he give you any shit again?
So, I mean, I've really been restricting myself when it comes to Grant, to be frank with you, online. I thought I should set the example and say, just don't go to his page, block him, don't give him the views. I will tell you, just over the past couple of months, he is just a real problem. He was not there for the first part of it. So the space is small. We've talked about this before. It's even more so now when there's more people there that haven't been there before. He showed up halfway through. And listen, my husband smokes weed. I'm not anti-weed, but when he walked over, the smell was overbearing. Overbearing. He's just Grant doing Grant
I just
things.
want to say, Jessica, I would rather smell his pot than what he usually smells like.
Listen,
I gotta
he
be
looks the
honest with
same.
you. I've been around the guy. The pot is probably the best part of his smell.
It's an upgrade, is what
anyway.
you're saying, Mike. It's an upgrade.
It is. It's like
yeah. So no, I had no problems with him yesterday. I have seen some of the antics. I mean, I think he posted something today about the questionnaire, right? That it was leaked by people, and ultimately it was released, I guess, or it was available for everybody. I mean, listen, my situation with Grant is summed up as this. Him looking at me the way that he did in court, staring at my breasts, making a kissy face and a wink when he was less than 5 feet from me in what I would consider to be a professional environment. That is it for me. That is when I stopped feeling sorry for him. I don't consider him a poor thing or a victim. Grant is extremely calculated in what he says and what he does. And I think the faster that I learned that, the better off I was. And I think, I'm waiting for someone of a higher power to recognize that he has no business being around, even people like me who are new to this role. He has no business being in that court box, that press box. He's not contributing in any way. If he changed his antics and he had a less biased reporting, we've been in the same room tweeting at the same time, and I can, whatever side I'm on mentally, and I'm obviously free Karen Reed. I can't report that way. I can't put my personal slant on those things. Now, we're not talking about Aiden. We're not talking about any of that thing. If you're in a courtroom reporting on Karen Reed, it's facts only. You can't talk and assume somebody is looking dejected, or you can't say, oh, she looks disappointed, or he makes too many personal assumptions about how people are reacting to things. And it's not good for people who read his information thinking it's fact.
It's
And,
irresponsible journalism.
and it's
Great
not
way to say it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also that he's wrong. Like his personal
Yeah.
opinions, it'd be so much different if sometimes like when people give personal opinions, we understand that it's a personal opinion, number one, if they acknowledge that, but he doesn't act like that. Number one, he like tries to hide it that it's his personal opinion. But even there, like if someone is credible, like I'll listen to their personal opinion, but him, I've found that it's always wrong. He always makes the wrong assumptions.
Yeah, he goes all in on things that he shouldn't. And again, it's one of the things one of the things I really think that Grant has as an advantage is he has some sort of a law understanding. He knows the right words to say, and I'm not envious of him. I think over time anybody can learn how the court works and the things to look for. So he has that background, which I think if I had that would be great. It would really take me to the next level. It's a waste for him. He has it and he wastes it. Because all of that and that intellect regarding law is lost when he is, giving his opinion and not being truthful on what he's actually saying in a courtroom. So it's a big waste.
Now, the question too, people have been bringing this up, his antics around Karen Reed and her attorneys. Allegedly, people have been saying he might have been reported and that the court might be upset with him right now. And the question that's come up is Yannetti this morning made a big deal about something that they ended up going into sidebar with the prosecution first thing in the morning. And I believe that was after Grant again pulled his antics with them. So I'm wondering if he's got himself in a little bind. Like, wouldn't it be ironic if he was the one that was charged with protesting in a restricted zone, going against court orders? Because he's been trying to, set everyone else up. He's so happy they restricted speech. Wouldn't it be fun if he was the one that actually got charged or admonished by the court?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will. Well, first of all, that's unfortunate for people that support him, right? And whatever his narrative is, he's letting them down. And that's just the most Grant things of all Grant things, right? So he has a base, obviously. There are people that follow him, and his unprofessionalism is going to essentially lock those people out and not be able to have that anymore. So, way to go, Grant. I don't know how. Again, I was surprised that he was even in there to begin with. I maintain, and I have no proof of this, I don't believe his credentials were up to date, because he made a post about it and said, oh, I've got my SGC or whatever, like all together. When I first met him that very first day, he had his paper. It was crumpled up. It wasn't digital. It was, a mess. And, I just wasn't sure that he was actually supposed to be there. You know what I mean? And I think once the spotlight was on him because of his own actions, he probably tried to make sure those things were more in order. There's nobody like him in these press boxes. There is nothing like Grant. There's nobody talking like him, acting like him, causing a scene, running in. I'll never forget the day that he, came in just before Lindsay Gattani, right? And he was like a kid, like in a candy shop, running over, giggling, like he knew she was there. Obviously, they came together. He ran in, he's in the press box. Like, you shouldn't be showing that kind of emotion when you're supposed to be there reporting. Everybody is really professional, and Grant is just not professional in any way.
He acts like a pro wrestling manager from the 1980s. When he was like, you look like Bobby the Brain Heenan when he was escorting the
My
McAlberts
God.
in two different groups to court that day, a
Oh
couple
my
of weeks
God.
back. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
And he's flipping off Tommy and everything
Yes.
outside the court and
Yeah.
telling people to shut up. And then, of course, he tripped going up the stairs. But yeah, it's just these antics all the time. He's like a shock journalist. He's just out there to go out there and try to cause a big scene and portray it from one side, and that's it. It's just it's total nonsense. You shake his head. And I really don't blame um, Turtle Boy for mocking him the way he did yesterday as well, where he kept making fun of the fact he kept saying poor sources, allegedly, shocking news, because that's all it is. It's sensationalism, and that's all he's out to do. And he's not reputable. Even if he does have one side, he's not portraying that in a newsworthy or journalistic way. It's just, well, I'm going up to. I mean, journalists don't go to other people's houses. It's not that I'm aware of that got a restraining order out on someone and then arrive to court together to get someone booted out of a courtroom. I mean, these are tactics, is what you're saying here, or what we have seen. And it's just it's very peculiar behavior, and it's definitely I think we're all looking forward to the day. None more than you, I'm sure, Jess, that he's just basically reprimanded for his actions and just basically forbidden from even showing up. Hopefully, so. But I'm
Well,
sure as
the only thing I'll say is, when I would do political talk and report on politics and things, I would always go to the other side first so I could see what their thoughts and what they were thinking. So that way I could sharpen my argument for whatever I was advocating for. And I think you need people in a certain way to be on the other side of things. Number one, you need to be open-minded, right? I can give a couple of examples where I've heard some things on the other side of this where I've kind of changed my mind, right? Not necessarily on how I feel about things, but maybe on something I've done. You need somebody like that on the other side. I think it keeps you sharp, and it also helps you, again, strengthen your argument for what you feel and what you believe. Grant is not that, he's just a distraction. But I do think you need the other side. I mean, look at, Aiden and him, having a debate, or so to speak. That's important, to see that. And I like conflict in a restricted way. You know what I mean? It's good to see people go back and forth. I would say all the time, like, I want to interview everybody related to this. I cover a lot more of the Turtle Boy case, but I would love to interview, Kate Peter. I would love to interview Lindsay Gattani. I would love to talk to those women and ask them questions and just hear them organically say, this is what I feel. I actually sent Kate Peter 10 questions. She said, I'll interview with you. I said, do you want to do it on the phone? Do you want to do it, whatever? She said, send me the questions. I sent them. She never answered. I like hearing what people say. I like asking questions. Grant's not doing that. When he's asking his questions, it's to be an antagonist. It's not to be, a curious reporter.
No, he's
He has
definitely disingenuous all the way through. Someone made a post about Melanie Little that she pointed out Bev's mistake. We posted on the screen a few minutes ago. Don't put something ambiguous like that and don't tell us what the mistake was. Like, if Melanie Little says something, don't hint at it. Tell us what you're talking about, please. Now, go ahead, Mazza.
Yeah, Grant had, when he was following Karen Reed and her legal team yesterday out to their vehicle. I'm not sure if you were in distance of this, but it was caught on Tommy's live stream. He asked Karen, he goes, Karen, are you and Alan Jackson having an affair? It's like, dude, stop it, dude. It's just constantly these things that he makes up out of thin air. One of his big things recently was that Karen doesn't acknowledge Turtle Boy. Well, that was proven absolutely ridiculous today, wasn't it? Because she certainly acknowledged Turtle Boy on the way out of court, which was great. But he's always stirring something up. It's always a crisis with everything he says, and it's just, we're tired of it. We're definitely tired of it. Sometimes he's entertaining, like when he trips and falls down the stairs trips walking up the stairs, for example. But yeah, it's just these things he comes up with, and he's just antagonizing David Yannetti yesterday on the way out of court, and David's totally stone-faced and walking confidently. He can't be rattled, and I appreciated that about him quite a bit. So, yeah, that's for sure. At least they're not being bothered by this guy and taking the bait. And they know what to do. They know just to ignore people like him. And the only questions they really fielded today were from reporters that were reputable and had, decent questions to ask. When they provided, Alan Jackson answered all the questions today they asked on the way out of court. And, they asked him about the jury, and he gave good answers to those questions. But Grant, on the other hand, he's like someone just trying to get attention. It's like, come on, brother.
All right.
I think the other thing too is, we are in the middle of it, and obviously we've been following this and reporting and talking about it. But I think if we step outside of this, this is going to be a case that is well known for many, many years, right? So every person who is a part of this has some sort of a role. And, Grant's role is going to be that the goofy cartoon character antagonist that says all of the awkward, weird things. And, that's what he's going to be known for. His legacy in this trial will be just that, an antagonist, saying really inappropriate things, making inappropriate gestures. And that's what his piece of this is always going to be known for. I wonder who will play him in the made-for-TV movie.
Who knows? Probably it would be Screech, but Screech is gone. Screech is left. What's that guy's name? Justin Diamond has left the building.
Oh,
Right.
But you know what? People are talking about this Melanie Little thing, and they're saying that Bev screwed up about apparently the timeline that she drove. Bev said that she drove John back home and then to 34 Fairview.
in the openings, like when she was
Yeah,
talking about the
yeah.
overview.
I guess so. I'm not sure. We'd
So
have to
I
listen
can
to
tell
that
you
back.
that
But
when she was
before I get there,
reading,
wait.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say to the audience, like when you're posting this stuff, tell us why it's relevant. I don't think that's like what is the relevance of that? Like, did Bev just screw up something? Like, I don't get it. I don't get why that's a bombshell. Tell us why it's important. We're like, what is Melanie Little saying about it that makes it important? Because I'm not getting this. This is like your first comment was weird. Your second comment was weird. Like, spell it all out for us. Like we're dumb people.
So someone is saying in that chat, it said Bev made a mistake in her opening. She said Karen, John, and the girls went back to John's house, right, from the waterfall. The only thing I will say is when she was first saying that, and she may have read it incorrectly, but that statement was issued like in some of those documents, I think. And I'm not the best with this, but I heard her say all of those things. That's what she was explaining to the jurors. So she gave an overview. So they were already seated when that was happening. So she gave that overview. Everybody was seated. And then whoever follows this case and is much better at this will tell you it's in some sort of a document that was available that day. So she read it word for word as part of that opening statement to the jurors. I think she just misspoke. She was reading. It wasn't her verbatim or her, she was reading from a piece of paper
Yeah, that's
when she did
exactly
that.
it. It's nothing. And
Right.
basically what people are thinking is that's why that was a sidebar. We finally got there.
Yeah.
You finally explained it after 4 responses. Thank you, people in the chat. You gotta get if you post something and you want us to talk about it, please spell it out. Like, because it was very confusing. Now I get it. Now we get it. It was nothing. So basically that could be why they did the sidebar this morning instead of Grant.
Oh.
So all right, we got that little minutia. Thank you, chat. I love the chat when they inform us, but you got to get right to the point.
We got resolution on that, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's witness lists. We're about to talk about the witness list earlier. I noticed a couple things. One of the things I noticed right away is that the prosecution put Mass State Police, Canton Police, Stoughton Police, put every single town where, there was a police officer, a lot of police officers listed. And then you see Brian Higgins listed just as a resident on Cape Cod. He hasn't listed as an ATF agent. I wonder if that has any significance. What do you all think about that?
Yeah, he was listed in Sandwich, Mass. It was interesting. I hadn't seen this when they were saying it out loud. So there was, a couple of moments for me where I think I was like, ooh, you know what I mean? I don't know. That is interesting. It did seem that she was very specific. They're firefighters and all of these things. I can't even begin to speculate as to why he was listed as just a lay person and not his job with the ATF.
Mazza, you have any comment?
Nothing much on that. Yeah, I see that anybody that was from a police department specifically, like Kenneth Berkowitz, he's listed as former chief of Canton Police Department, Kenneth Berkowitz. So,
Right.
Whether or not he is or is not with ATF, whatever his status was, here or there, it's not listed. So I don't know if it's suspicious or not. It's too much of a gray area to really determine. It just says Sandwich, Mass. But I agree with you though that. Why like we have someone here, Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab, Marine Hartnett, all that specified. See, it is very notable Mike to make that comment for sure. I think that that's interesting. That why is it just, we have people from attorneys' offices, Steve Nelson, Norfolk County District's Attorney Office, police crime lab people, but none of that is a very notable remark. But I think it might be just a gray area, but when you can still raise your eyebrow at if that's a fair statement to make.
Good point.
Yeah.
And we got the expert witnesses from the defense up there, Richard Green, a bunch of PhDs, at least 3 PhDs and a medical doctor, forensic pathologist. Do you have any comments on any of that?
I mean, for me, I mean, having not ever covered a trial like this and not having much experience, the only thing I'll say from what I know is it's a very broad stroke of what they put out here for witnesses. I'm following another trial unrelated to this, and I think it comes up. I think this is very excessive. There's a lot here. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
that's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking of another case where I was watching, and, there was someone on the list to testify that had absolutely almost no relevance to this whole thing whatsoever that I was following. Right. But they asked a person a question about whether or not they ever went here with this person. Right. And the person said yes, but the other person said no. So then they just called that other person and was like, hey, can you just confirm that you were with this person? And they did, and that was it. And they were done. I'm going to be following this the way most of the public is following this, as a complete green, layperson having no background. I think with that same type of storytelling viewpoint, you know what I mean? I think I almost am happy to be at that disadvantage and not really know how this works or how it plays out. Because I just want to see it kind of unfold organically. So I can't begin to say, hey, this is why. And there's certainly much more credible people that understand how these things work. For me, listen, as a person that's been following the story just from the Canton, Chronicles type thing, and reading that whole thing, to hear Morrissey's name on that list when it was read in court, that was wild to me. Everybody else, I think, was expected. I don't want it to get too techie. When I saw all of the medical examiners and the what was it? The lab people, that stuff turns me off. I'm not a science geek or anything, so I don't want it to get too techie and things that are gonna. I'm more interested in the relationships, the conversations, the destroyed cell phones. The real drama things. That's what's interesting me. I also think, just as a regular person, if I'm on a jury, it can't get too technical too. I would get confused. I think people feel overwhelmed. Looking in that room, it's just a lot of regular people. You don't know what they do for a living, but they're just regular, average Americans. And it can't get too deep or techie, like I said, because people will just get lost. And I don't know. I worry about those things.
Yeah, keep it elementary, keep it basic, keep it simple, and speak to the common mind and not don't assume everyone there is a forensic expert. Exactly. You want to keep it grounded.
Yeah, this in itself is such a comprehensive case with so many different twists and turns. And, I really wonder if it weren't for the way this has been chronicled, right? With the 300 plus, episodes of the Canton stories and things from Turtle Boy, would we really be able to follow this? And there was a time where I think people really were kind of lost. I think there was a point where things started to really get a little crazy. And even reading every day, I've read every one of those things. I followed every media out. There were still times where I had to pause and I was like, let me just go and see if people can talk me through this. Can you imagine how a juror is going to feel, to look at all of these relationships and all of these people? And I think it's just going to be a very comprehensive trial with a lot of twists and turns. It's going to be a lot for any juror, I think, that's going to be sitting there listening to all of this testimony.
Yeah, are you planning to be there for when the trial starts?
Yeah, so it's it's based on need. And so if people are responding to our Twitter account and following it and people need it, I hear a lot of people say, hey, I can't listen, I can't watch, but I can look at my phone and read your updates. It really comes to, we did the live tweet from the other day, yesterday. We had like 70,000 views of that one. That was great for my boss to justify me going back. So as long as those things stay there, I can be there almost every day.
So if you want it, you better share it.
Yeah,
I
I hate
like
to
it.
self-promote like that. I guess I have to get a little used to that, but yeah, if people are interested, follow me on my page, but Fall River Reporter too. We didn't really have much of a Twitter presence before I started. It was kind of an afterthought, and I love Twitter. You guys know we love it there. I think it's really the future for news reporting and for the consumption. People like to consume it there in a way that it's easy to read. They can interact, like you said, Mike. You can go after people in power there, and people love to see that. So yeah, if the people keep following, listen, if it drops off, I have the Zoom link so I can always watch it myself from home, but I'd like to be there. I don't think there's anything like seeing reactions in person and body language and things like that.
Mazza.
Yeah, I agree. We'd love having Jess there. There's been many times where I've followed her live tweets throughout the morning and afternoon, just to kind of keep, especially like times like yesterday, just to kind of keep an update. I was like scouring through the Fall River Reporter, just trying to find out like what was happening. 'Cause it got a little quiet there at a point yesterday when it went more internalized in the courtroom with, not many people knowing what was going on outside and the camera facing the clock. So definitely those updates are good. So just getting back to the whole point Jess was making too about the defense and the way they're going to frame this for the jury by keeping it simple, keeping it complex. I think a lot of that's going to be just by really going for the meat and potatoes of the case here, and just basically going for the key points and just kind of really going for what is enough to tell the full story with the essential details, the essential characters involved, and then really, really sell Karen's whereabouts that night and the stages of the taillight and the status of John O'Keefe, when he was, Apple Health Data picked them up going up 3 flights of stairs. That's all key. And I think simple things like that, people will be able to identify. And I think that really comes down to, when they're interviewing, have witnesses on the stand, picking very carefully from this list specific people that can answer specific questions and then asking those questions very eloquently. And I think once again, Karen Reid's defense team is more than apt and able to do just that. So I'm very intrigued to see just how Alan Jackson, David Unetti, Elizabeth Little, for example, are going to frame these questions to the jury to try to get, the right, not lead the witnesses, but ask questions that they're going to get in response from them that are going to be favorable to a jury from an understanding of what that witness is saying on the stand. So I think that's going to be really huge for that. I think it's going to be a big part of it. And like I said, just makes a great point. Early on, even for me in the early months, I was like looking up everybody's name. Like, who is this person from Canton that's speaking at the select board? Who is this individual that's in the house? Who's this third woman that was in the vehicle with Karen and Jet? Just trying to learn the characters. And it took me quite a few months. And I'll be honest with you, over those months, over the past year, I've had to go back and just try to take a day to just go, let me just reread the basics again. And a couple weeks later, let's reread the basics again, just to kind of get it memorized and know all the players. But like I said, like Jess said, that's a big amount of people, a large amount of people for a defense to have on the stand, ask questions to, cross-examine, and get the jury to comprehend that. So I think, like I said earlier, just keeping it concise is really going to pay dividends for the defense, and I think she has the team that's going to be more than capable of doing just that.
Let's hope so. I think so too. I mean, I think she's in good hands, but this is going to be tougher than what we think. It's not going to be easy.
Mhm.
But I think that there's a lot, like you said earlier, a lot of ways that this could, a lot of angles you can go with, from the tail
Yeah.
light to
Right.
the relationships. There's so much to just kind of dig into.
Right.
Another thing as well is, Karen has the ability to have hired this team. Had she not, she would have a public defense attorney. And I think that that would have made for a much different trial. Nothing against public defenders. I can speak from personal experience, and that it's for another day. So I was charged with. I had a political opponent that put a restraining order on me during a campaign where we ran against each other. And I got charged with violating that restraining order. And I was arraigned 2 different times, and I was given a public defender, and he did a fantastic job. All of the charges against me were dropped. However, he had a very full plate. He was working many cases at one time, and I was one of hundreds, from what he told me. To know that, it looks as if they're all in on Karen. She has a team that's exclusively devoted to her. I don't know what their caseload is like, but with a public defender, it's just a different ball game. And, I think about that every day. She's got the best of the best. And, if it were a public defense attorney, this would be a different trial for sure.
Absolutely. Going to be interesting what happens when this starts up on trial. I mean, it looks like it could be Monday. That's what Monday or
Yeah.
Tuesday it's looking like.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, they got this. I mean, they're practically almost wrapped up with the jury selection. They had a very productive day today with 7 selections. And then just, like I said, about 5 more individuals, 1 more for the full 12-person jury, and then 4 alternates, and they'll be there. So well, at least it was 6 alternates that they upped that. There's been still confusion with that 4 alternates or 6 alternates. I heard 6. Jess confirmed she heard 6. NBC Boston 10 confirmed 6 yesterday, but today I'm hearing 4 more. But either way, they're closing, and they got Thursday and Friday coming up too if they need it to get this filled. So
Awesome. It's
You know,
crazy.
the
to
other
see-
thing too, I'll
Oh,
mention. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say it's we're talking about the witness list earlier, like how many witnesses there are. You're just thinking like how long that could be if they called even half of those people.
Mm. I was going to say, from a female perspective, a little bit of a girly in me is looking at Karen Reed's fashion on a daily basis. And I know there are a lot of women that are as well. So just a little bit of lightheartedness surrounding this. Karen has had a different outfit every day. And she had a great outfit on today. Listen, it's just a side thing, but she's beautiful. It's a tough situation for her to be in. Who's not looking at her hair, her demeanor, her clothes? If somebody has some free time, they should start a Twitter account with just Karen Reed fashion. Last week she wore knee-high boots with
I like
her
the boots.
suit
The
outfit.
boots. Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
know. All the guys love the boots. My
We
husband was
love the
like, she
boots.
looks great. I'm here for the fashion too. Again, I don't mean to downplay the seriousness of what we're doing here. This is a murder trial, and someone has lost their life. But there have to be moments where it's a little lighthearted, and she looks fantastic. I'm obsessed with her clothes, and how she looks when she's in the courtroom. And aesthetically, her whole team is gorgeous. And I also think that just equates to confidence and capability. And, we've talked about Ken Mello as the special prosecutor on this other case, right? And Ken is just an absolute mess. He's disheveled. He doesn't look right. He can't walk right. I mean, and it translates. He can't file his documents on time.
Yeah.
He, didn't interview the police officers in that case. I mean, if we're going to be putting checks and columns, he's not getting them. And it's just, you're looking at the disparity between the 2 different types of attorneys. And like I said earlier, Lally seems a little winded. He seems a little rushed. And then you've got this team that walk in together as a team. They're confident. They're protecting her when they walk in. I think
2
optics are important for jurors. Optics are important to the regular people that are in that box that are going to be watching. And she looks great.
I wonder sometimes if that could work against her too, though. Like someone said, they mentioned how expensive it must be to have all those outfits. There's always that kind of where most people were like, "Oh, I like that person," but there's like that one person that's jealous of them.
I don't know if, at any point in time, the money, and I don't know their financial situation. Obviously, they were able to afford these attorneys, but there's been some fundraising for her. She doesn't come off as cocky, conceited, or condescending. She comes off as humble. She comes off
Mhm,
as innocent and confident in her
mhm.
innocence.
Yep.
And I think it's believable. I mean, I think it's very easy for people to kind of pick her apart. I mean, I was objective right from the start. I never thought that she came off that way. We shouldn't be jealous of anybody that's successful in life. Her demeanor when she's there is humble. She's waving to people. She's thankful. She's holding her own under a barrage of comments and questions from Grant on a daily basis, right?
Mm.
Anybody could lose their cool. And she doesn't. And her team doesn't. So I don't know. I think you have a point that yes, it may in some cases turn people off. In her case, I just don't think it does.
Yeah, I don't think it's too animated either, where it looks like it's not like a boastful, like an Amber Heard case or something, where she, she's not someone that's necessarily from a Hollywood, lifestyle or anything, or big business corporation. So I agree with Jess on that. Just that she carries herself well, but very very down to earth, very down to earth. Even her clothes, while they are very classy, they're not ritzy. They're not, she's not rocking jewelry, but it's just perfect. She's wearing clothes that are very nice and presentable. The SUVs they show up in, nice and presentable, but they're not showing up in like ritzy, Cadillacs or something. But that that's how I look at that as well. She's very you feel for her, and I'm sure, to Mike's point, to go with off that, Mike, yeah, I'm sure there's probably a few people out there, because I saw a lady on X just the other day saying, like, I can't wait for this rotten woman to go to prison. I'm like, oh jeez. But
Right?
yeah, yeah, you do have
There's
those folks
always
out
those
there too.
haters.
Yeah,
They
there's
just
always a
hate
hater.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she thinks she's so great because she has better hair than I do.
Right?
You know?
It's
I mean, she's
unbelievable.
also accused of murder,
That's
and
right.
and
That's
Yeah.
exactly
that's
right.
going to be with her for the rest
Yeah.
of her life, whether
Correct.
Yeah.
she's
Stigma.
vindicated or not. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody should want to trade places with her. That's for sure.
No,
And
not
how
at
much
all.
money she's had to spend. Like this
Oh,
is
I
gonna
can't
be
imagine. Do we
yeah.
have an idea? I mean, what are we thinking as far
I
as
mean, I
her
think
legal?
it's gonna end up being like $1 million defense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable. And
Yeah.
especially if people say like if this gets to be a hung jury and they retry it again and
Mhm.
again and
Hmm.
again, I mean,
Hmm.
who knows? I want to thank Thomas Fleming. He's it's so funny because Thomas, we've gone at it, and I think that he gave us a donation like a few weeks ago, and then I think MJ blocked him on our YouTube. I don't even know what happened. And I talked to him on Twitter. I think he must have worked it out with MJ because he's back and he's now a YouTube member, and I'm glad he's a member. So thank you, Thomas Fleming. This is a moderator for Kevin for Plevin. We got Plevin's moderator hooking us up and becoming a member. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Comment from Kelly. Kelly in the comments as well. There, Mike, about Karen. Yep.
Yeah, Kelly Reed, who is a cousin of Karen Reed, is in the chat tonight. And she's basically saying that Karen Reed is wearing her clothes from work that she used to wear when she worked at Fidelity. And she had a very, a high end. I used to work at Fidelity back in the day. I was a stock trader. She's way above, like way up there. Like, so she's got that corporate look already. She already got all those. It's funny because like I haven't. This is like one of my new suits. I have a couple new suits, but for years when I would just live off of wearing those old suits from when I was a financial advisor. I
Mhm.
called it business bum because like they weren't new. They were like all old and they started to like. But it was, it's just funny. When you get that kind of if you're in that career, you're definitely going to have some nice clothes. Financial services, especially.
Mm. Well, I'm here for the fashion. I think it's a good distraction to the heaviness of what we're doing
Yeah.
every day. And it's again, the jurors are going to see her every day. You can't take away from the regular human inside of every juror that's going to be sitting there, and
Mhm.
what appeals to them and what doesn't.
Right. I agree. And she has that human essence to her too. Like, you don't feel like she's like I said, Amber Heard, where the Amber was kind of a little bit out there from time to time during the Johnny Depp trial, as Johnny was probably too. But Karen is definitely down to earth. She, Whitney Houston song, "I'm Every Woman." She kind of feels like the every woman that women can relate to and admire and respect. And in that essence, I think that there's that you can just tell by, and I always say this, when you look at the amount of people that are outside every hearing, going back over a year now, just about a year now, you never see many people from the other side. It's always a free Karen Reed movement, so much so that they had to create a buffer zone for that. And you never see like a bunch of people out there with signs saying, she killed him, she killed. It's never that. It's just on X. It's just on X that we ever see that. And that also not only tells you about the numbers, but it tells you the validation of the common person, that more everyday people choose to be proactive and actively believe that Karen is innocent than there are people that are proactive and actively out there trying to get her, essentially, like I like to say, thrown in prison for life. And look at the amount of police officers. You never see many police, you don't see any police officers in uniform because they all deep down inside, from what usually when a cop gets killed like this in any shape or form, they're out there in force every single time in court. This is non-existent in this time because I believe that they know things that they just can't say. That's always been my take on this, is that they know they just can't say certain things. But I think when you take a jury, you know, you're looking at least, and I hate to estimate, but I'm going to say over 80% almost guaranteed are probably going to, after they hear a couple days worth of this from defense versus prosecution, and they see that preparation of Alan Jackson, David Unetti, the strong confident points that they're making, the people that they're asking and cross-examining and giving them sound answers, I think that that's really going to convey well in court, and it's going to really pay in Karen's favor. And again, this is why, if you're ever in this situation in your life, if you can get an attorney, a defense team like this, go for it, because it's just not worth getting lesser attorneys, or moderate or below or court appointed attorneys to defend you in such a situation like this, just like Jess said, because this group is so well organized, from, like Jess said, from the way they walk out of the SUVs, the way they don't just walk into court, they walk into court. They just don't walk out of court, they walk out of court. There's a swagger, there's a presence, there's a professionalism, there is a candor. And that is just what you see here. They are organized so well, and it's so honorable. And like I said, Karen is, I just, I've told many people about Karen, and they're just like, there's no way that she did what she's accused of. She just doesn't have that presence to her. I mean, there's certain people you see that commit crimes out there, and you might have an initial impression about what, and then you may find out one way or another they did it or they did not do it. But in this particular case, every time I see Karen, like I said at the top of the show, I was talking about the video of her walking out of court. The first thing I said in the show, she just does not have the presence of someone that voluntarily or involuntarily killed anybody. And she has the presence of someone that is fighting for her rights. And you can tell it's congruent from her presence to what she's saying. Everything is congruent. And she's an innocent woman, factually, too, at that.
The only thing I would say to that, and I don't disagree with you,
Mhm.
is even if she wasn't any of those things,
Mhm.
there's so much evidence on the other side of this that would lend that it has to be something other than her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, all of those things are correct. I would
Mhm.
agree with you about her and her appearance. And first of all, I'll maybe push back on you. I don't know Karen Reed at all. I've never spoken to her.
Mhm.
So I'm for me, just being in the industry, especially politics, for as long as I have, there are a
Mhm.
lot of people that present a certain way
Oh,
to you,
sure.
and they're the exact opposite. And
Yes.
in the Massachusetts GOP, there's no more than the people like that there, right? People
Mhm.
that you shake hands with and you work with side by side, and they are just the opposite. So do I think that people can be deceptive, or could you be fooled? Of course, right? Especially
Mhm.
because I think naturally we all want to think the best of everybody. I do agree with you though, right, with Karen,
Mhm.
especially with the people that are, supporting her. You look at her father there every day. You look at the people that have surrounded her. But if we take that away from this and we take Karen Reed out of it, and it could be anybody, you could put Grant Smith Ellis sitting there, right? And you take that away, you have to look at all of these other things. You have to talk about the lack of an investigation. You have to think about from the very first moment where nobody came out of that house when they were outside tending to John, right? There's a man on your front lawn and nobody left the home and came outside. So just from the start all the way to the end, the other side of things away from Karen, I think is enough to say that she didn't do it.
Yeah.
I would never want to depend on someone's personality or
No.
anything like that.
No, not at all.
I just think there's just so much there on the other side that would obviously show that she's or anybody else is not guilty, except for, whoever actually did it, which was, in my opinion, Higgins. But we can save that for another day.
Right, if you had to pick. Yeah, and I think like my comments too are essentially what I determined to be kind of like almost like a presence of everything that you just said. In other words, that she's almost the exuberance of how how they look is
Mm.
not necessarily like a typical candidate running for politics that smiles to your face and glad hands you. She comes off as very sincere, and to me, it seems more of a reflection of the things that you just said as well. So, definitely for sure,
Well,
Jessica.
keep in mind we have some like Scott Peterson, right, who murdered Lacey Peterson, his wife, and her unborn baby, is just in the news again. I guess something is happening with his case, right? I don't know what they're looking for or what have you. But I remember when that trial was happening, girls were like gaga for Scott Peterson, right? They loved him. He was so good looking and handsome and all of this stuff. And even that other man, and I can't think of his name, it escapes me, but that murdered his wife and his two boys, right? And some of these people come off looking like really good people. And I'm not alluding that Karen is that. I'm
Mhm,
just saying, for
mhm.
me, I've learned just to take away the surface things
Yeah, the
and just
aesthetics. Yep.
Because you
yeah,
never really know. You never
Yeah,
know.
you
exactly.
never really know. And those are some of those really big aha moments where you're like, for me, I'm going to be honest with you. The Higgins information that has come out leading into this trial really made me change my perspective on this case. I always wondered and had in the back of my mind, why were some of these people so cocky and confident? Why were they showing up to court every day
Mhm.
brazen? And,
Right.
what did they know we don't know?
Right.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think the Higgins stuff really kind of that light bulb went off for me. Oh, I know why, right? Because they actually, know it wasn't A, B, or C, and it's somebody else, and it changed my perspective on it. So yeah, I never really look at like the person themselves. I love everything about what Karen's doing in her team, and again,
Mhm.
the fashion and the people around her, and just the story in itself being framed. I mean, that's a terrible situation that anybody is susceptible to be a victim of that. It's dangerous. It ruins your life. Her life has been ruined temporarily, hopefully. But I like to look at the case itself, and I
Yeah,
think that that's
for
where it
sure.
all really lies.
Yeah, exactly. I agree 100% on that too. And that's exactly like even with the aesthetics outside or outward exuberance appearance, that with the attorneys, when you break everything down, you just look at it, things don't fit into place with what she's accused of, and it just doesn't make any sense. You look at all the details through and over, and you just feel like you're looking at a case here where the woman that's being accused of all these things it just doesn't add up. There's too many moving parts here, and there's too many moving pieces, and there's too much that could have happened that even suggests that she did it. And I just, end of the day, I'm if this jury were to say she was guilty, I'd be shocked. But you never know with juries. But I just
Hmm.
don't think that I think there's too much out there that can be presented to create enough doubt. You know what I mean? That's like, well, this. What about the tail light cracked? It's not shattered. The cop said it was shattered. It's just things like
Yeah.
that.
What about Michael Proctor? What about his,
Yeah,
his
affiliation.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's being investigated by his own state
sure.
police, and he
Hmm.
Yeah,
lied about the toe. He misspelled all the name. I mean, we could go on and on about Michael
right.
Proctor, but one thing I want to ask you both, and you may not have an answer, but Jessica, you alluded to this earlier that in the press box, you're seeing a lot of new media people covering this now. We're noticing this to a lot of new shows, a lot of bigger media is covering it. It's tough to keep track of it all. Like, have you noticed or followed any that are doing a good job that you want to kind of shout out, or any that have been terrible?
So Ted Daniel, I think, is doing a great job of his tweeting. It's factual, and it's on point. I come from a completely different media outlet. We are not owned by a big company or not controlled by anybody. We are one of the largest media outlets in Massachusetts. We're highly competitive with the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald. Um, it's just a different vibe for me. So, I don't want to offend anybody who's in the box with me who may see this, right? They're all doing their job and they're all living their lives. And I aspire to be like them one day. I look at everything just a little bit differently as I approach 50. I like pure reporting. I like truth. I live to uncover things. And again, everybody was just kind of getting in there and it's all shiny and new. And I don't know if it's because we've been following this so long and we're all, present company included, so deeply immersed in this story and all of the different facets of it. And the freedom of press piece with Aiden that I'm very passionate about. I'm also a little territorial over this. I don't like people coming in from the outside as much as I love that sensationalism. I feel like this story is us. I think it's the people that have been following it from the beginning. I think we own it. We have the rights to it. I don't like outsiders coming in. And I worry that it's not, this backs up. Listen, everybody knows my history with Aiden, right? And, having a story about me on there and my relationship with that. I still believe in that type of reporting. I still believe in truth and exposure and not being owned and controlled and being able to trust people to make their own decisions. And I just feel mainstream media is so controlled and contrived. They never gave Aiden the credit that he deserved from the beginning, right? Now they're coming around and asking him for interviews now, but he's been down this road for so many years, right? Paying his dues, getting still to this day calling him a blogger, right? We've moved on from that. Like blogging is like so 2000. It's not blogging. He's reporting. He's a journalist. Mike, you're a journalist. I'm a journalist. However, unconventional it is. We report on stories, and mainstream media is tough for me to swallow. I have a real trust issue with them. So I guess I'm glad that they're there and giving exposure to this story. I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be done in the right way. Ted Daniel, who's Fox 25 Boston, is great with his tweeting, very competitive with what I do and with what Grant does. So I would definitely give him credit. I just haven't seen anything listen, I've watched a couple of the court TV's things. It's wild. It's just, it's like a soap opera, that channel, it's done just like that. So it's a great source to get the live feeds and things like that. But I don't know. I hate to say it, I'm just not a fan. I'm probably going to get a lot of heat when I sit in that press box, but I'm not there to make friends either, so.
Yeah. It's funny you picked the local guy, Ted Daniel. I got some video with him. Tom interviewed him today. I think it was a good little interview. One of the things I found out about Ted Daniel today is that he blocked Grant
Really?
on Twitter. I heard that's
Well, he was
what my sources are
tagging
telling
him.
me.
Yeah, he was tagging Ted
Yeah.
in some posts. And listen, for someone like me, I have the ability to kind of go back and forth and have some banter with Grant when I was doing that. Ted doesn't have the time for that. I think he had a tweet up yesterday. I think it said, "Hey, thanks for the Twitter love, but Twitter's not where I get my money." You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
get paid from the Twitter stuff.
You know
So
what though? I liked it. I
yeah,
think that was like a good move. You block Grant. Like I was like,
yeah.
Ted Daniel, I think I like you a lot more now because I found out that you blocked Grant Smith.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah,
must piss
he does a good job though,
Yeah.
and he also has been able to break some news throughout this whole process that he's gotten his hands on first before some other people. So listen, in a case like this, the stuff that comes out before anybody else, you get your hands on that. He's trustworthy to me. I can get my info from him. But beyond that, I don't know. They're all just mainstream, not fans.
What do you think, Mazza Media? Do you have anyone that you like that you've seen from the mainstream media, or maybe someone like Melanie Little out there that's really actually good and not really mainstream media?
Yes, I just want to remind you, I'm going to jump off just in a moment. It's going to kind of be my final thoughts here. I got to hit the road here. Well, thank you for having me on, of course. And Jess, always a pleasure speaking with you as well. And just for my final thoughts, I like Ted Daniel a lot. I like, I have an appreciation for NBC 10 because of their activity. They're kind of picking it up with coverage. Court TV, I followed a lot early on last year, and then they just started to, with their panel members, just really started to rub me the wrong way when Vinny repeatedly had people on that just were anti Karen Reed. I just couldn't stand listening to it anymore. And I honestly have not followed too much court TV, with the exception of maybe like Turtle Boy appearances or special coverage like that. Howie Carr has a lot of commercials, but I do like when he has Turtle Boy on the show. And other than that, I'm not too big of a. I don't really have a negative opinion, but I don't necessarily have. I think a lot of Jess has said a few times tonight, the mainstream media is just getting their feet wet with this. And I saw CBS News's report last night. Same thing. It's just, well, people in Boston are very divisive. No, no, no. Don't make this a generalized statement. I feel like saying to the woman that was doing the interview, it's not about people in Boston having a natural inclination to disagree. That is a oversimplification of what's going on here. There are people that have opinions on this because there is a reason too. There are people that are out there protesting, that are running protests, that are standing out there with signs that have never done this before in their lives. And that goes back to Jess's point that they don't necessarily have the understanding of this that most of us do. And yeah, it's true to feel possessive. I know there was a live stream today that Tom was running, and he was speaking with a woman, and she made almost that exact comment, that she was worried about this being in the hands of a jury, because people on our end that have been following the story for a long time, that have been through all the chaos of last December and into January, which was really the hardest part of this whole movement, in terms of them coming after us wholeheartedly there when they went, it really attacked us through Aiden. Um, these media outlets don't necessarily get that. They don't necessarily convey that, and they try to write us off as just, well, these are just people that are naturally divisive, and they're just it's natural to be. No, this is not natural to be divided over. I'm not talking on this show tonight because I'm just someone from the Boston area that is naturally divisive and has an opinion. I have a deep-rooted opinion of this because I've done a lot of research. I've followed this story for a long time, almost like 11 months of my life now. And no, it's not that at all. And that's the concern I have. I think the best thing we can rest assured on is that more local networks, with the exception of Channel 5, will be a little bit more favorable towards the coverage. And that's really going to, in terms of people in this area formulating an opinion and getting to know the story, this is really where the hub is. And yeah, it definitely, like Jess said, it is our story. We're the ones that have been, I've written articles on my page defending Jess when she's been attacked before, because, like I said, I consider everyone in this movement a member of our team. And when I see someone attacked, which has happened to Jess in the past, I've gone on the defense. When people have gone after you, Mike, same thing. I've gone on the defense, and that because we're a team here and we're going to back each other up. But like I said, this is, it definitely feels a little bit more now. This is getting bigger and bigger, more and more mainstream as we go. We're starting to see more people moving in with big cameras, usually where the steps where the Free Karen Reed movement stood. Now there's a buffer zone. Now it's the big cameras standing outside the courtroom steps when Karen and her team come down. So definitely things have shifted here on the mainstream, which is a little bit, kind of knocks us out of our, realm of where we've been. But um, that's about it. I got a favorable opinion towards Ted Daniels most. I think he's done a great job, and I appreciate NBC 10, regardless of any political affiliations, beliefs, anything they may have, that they're just kind of really covering the story and creating some interest. So I'm going to roll though, Mike and Jess. Thank you. Nice to meet you again, Jess. Talk with you again, Jess, and Mike.
Same.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being at Mazza Media. Have a good night.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Free Karen Reed.
Maz is checking out. I'm going to continue. The show's not ending. He's just got some other things to do tonight at 8 p.m. He had a date, so he's got to go. 8:02. He gave us 2 extra minutes. Jessica, do you have final thoughts that you want to kind of share tonight?
I think we're on the precipice of something really, I think, historic. I think we were, mentioned the Johnny Depp trial, right? I always look at this from like a regular middle person perspective, right? I'm just a regular average girl. This story, I think, has captured everybody's attention here. And I think it's going to go far more national, obviously court TV. But I think as the case kicks off and we start to hear testimony, and if mainstream media is going to be good at anything, it's going to be just highlighting some notable moments, right? And packaging those up for the people to consume. So I think they'll be good at that. I think there's going to be a lot of moments like that in this trial. And so I think it's going to be a good watch. Again, always cognizant of the reason we're here, and that's someone's murder. However, I think this is a good distraction from all of the real big problems that are going on in this world, and people's involvement. Another thing too that Mazza was just kind of touching on. Having worked on, say, political campaigns or for political movements and things that we get behind, whatever the issue is, parents getting involved in my area for school issues and things, you always end up meeting people you've never met before. And you form friendships or relationships with people. And I'm sure all of us who are listening and you, Mike, have connected with people. And I think that there are some really great things that come out of moments like this. So meeting people, partnerships, business partnerships, professional relationships that weren't there before. Those are some really great moments that can come out of this. But I also feel like there's a camaraderie amongst the Karen Read supporters that is really palpable, that has not often been seen anywhere else. So, you think about the OJ trial, you think about the Scott Peterson trial. I think people were all oogling over that and looking at it, but I don't know if there was any group that was really just like this group. And I think it's just a very interesting dynamic that I'm glad to be adjacent to. I think Karen is very, very lucky to have so many people support her. I can't imagine if she were on the opposite side of that and she didn't have the support to be going through this. There's a lot of pluses for Karen, right? Her financial background, her family, her supporters, the coverage that she was getting very early on, and people digging this case apart and highlighting, the obvious missteps by the investigators on this. So I hope she has, that insight to be thankful for a lot of the things that she does have. And I think if she is, those good vibes will reverberate throughout the trial. But, how the media covers it, I think I'm very interested in. I'm happy to have put in the time prior to this start, and paid my dues with all of these other hearings and things. I'm thankful for the opportunity to go, for everybody who follows it. I'm thankful for you, Mike, for what you do. And you did say, anybody in my coverage, in the press box, there are people that aren't in the press box that I hold in much more regard, like the people that you had mentioned, Little, yourself, Mazza Media. I mean, there's a lot of people that when I get on my Twitter account, I know I can go over and depend on them to give me up-to-date information and also start really good conversations. I think people want to talk. They want to talk about this case. They want to hear more about it. They want to hear perspectives. They want to celebrate those achievements and wins. They want to commiserate over the losses, and there's nothing really like it right now. So as bad as it is, I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be an interesting couple of months.
It's going to be crazy. I can't wait to watch this trial. It's going to be to see what actually happens here.
Are you going to go at all, Mike? I mean, where are you located?
I'm on the North Shore. My problem is my dog business.
Oh, right.
And I was thinking maybe Friday. I was like, maybe I can go in on Friday, and then I'm taking in a lot of dogs that day. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no. So,
can you apply for a press pass, Mike?
Oh,
And then get access to
I'm
the
sure I
Zoom?
could definitely get a.
If you do that,
press
maybe,
pass
and
on
then
it.
get access to that Zoom, so that way
But I don't
have-
think we'll need it.
No,
That's going to be televised. It's all going to be televised.
everything's going to be
And
there.
it's going to be
Yeah.
streamed. So,
Yeah.
I know where it will be streamed. I'll probably be streaming it here actually with dogs.
Yeah.
I will see.
Well, I had
I would love
suggested
to get
that-
there on a Friday afternoon, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah, I think it's, for someone, it's worth the trip to go and see, we'll also so closely involved, following this, you might be able to pick a day where you think would be, a better day to go. We'll obviously be able to know, the day before a specific person might be testifying or a second day of testimony for somebody. So you can kind of handpick those days, but try to use that press pass and get in there and sit in the box with us. That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I
I'm
suggest,
and truthfully, if I went there, I may actually not even go in the press box. I
oh,
might
just hang
because
out outside.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
want to, like you said, I want to see the people. Like if I have one day, half a day, like I want to see all the people that are outside that I know,
Yeah. I had
and
suggested
interviewing
to,
people too. That's the other thing. Like
yeah.
I'd want to get my live stream out and start interviewing people there. So can't do
I
that
had
inside.
suggested to Aiden to get his press pass a while ago, when he was first dealing with the restraining order situation. I said, if you have a press pass and you're there for work and not as a spectator, you might be able to have some leverage in sticking around when she's there. I don't know exactly how that works, but if he is there doing his job and he's in a press box, can they really ask him to leave? So I thought that was a creative way to not get around it, but he was always there, and to be able to be there and report. But you're right, there's live stream and you guys have access to everything, but
Mm,
there's nothing like being there.
I get it.
It's I'll tell you what, if I could, I would stay up there. I would love to leave my husband and my kids for a week and say I'll be back on Friday for the
Oh, I
weekend.
would love to. I would love if I had some employee that could just take all my dog business and I'd
Listen,
be there. I would be there in a second, but
yeah, these reporters from mainstream media don't understand how lucky they are. They're getting put up in these hotels and,
exactly.
and getting to hang out there for a couple months. And
Yeah.
some of us are doing the grunt work of driving up there every day. But my husband asked me what I wanted for Mother's Day, and I was like, a week at the hotel closest to the courthouse.
Yes.
So, but it's going to be great, and I think it's going to be great to watch and learn, and ultimately, I hope, Mike, that we end up finding out who's responsible for this and those people are held accountable, because all of the other things are great wins, but man, I think everybody, it's like the who killed Kennedy, right? Like, just give us the answer, give us the proof, show us who it was, and let those people rot, you know what I mean, and
Yeah,
be held accountable.
definitely.
Yeah.
People keep talking about the Melanie Little thing today. You guys, I haven't watched it.
Me
And
neither.
and I don't know, like, it just seems like they're saying there could be a mistrial because of that. But I mean, it doesn't seem like a big mistake to me. I mean, it seems like could be easily corrected. So I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to watch. I was peeking at online actually while Mazza was talking, and it sounds to me like what you had already talked about, Mike, that
Yeah,
she
we had already
misspoke
talked
in the
about it.
beginning,
Yeah.
and somebody saying that this could be cause for a mistrial. I don't know what the parameters of that would look like.
Yeah, I don't either. And I just yeah, they're also saying Melanie said they did not stream the instructions today. No, they did not. Apparently Ted Daniel found out what was going on there, and apparently they don't allow any streaming
For
when
jurors.
yeah, for this after the first day. They do the first day instructions and that's it. And then
Hmm.
the second day there's not going to be any streaming until the trial starts now from the courtroom.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that's why that camera left like midway through. It just seemed like listen, I felt like it was a waste for me to be there. The first half where you saw the instructions, and then once they started those one-on-one conversations with the juror, I left after the second one. It didn't seem like I could hear anything. I couldn't really see anything, and it didn't seem like a proper use of my time.
Exactly. So I mean that's not really a good use of your time, definitely.
And
Um
it's not comfortable. You're sitting in literal, like,
yeah.
they're like church pews, they're wooden benches, everybody's close knit. Grant smell of weed. It was a lot.
That's the other thing. I don't think I'd want to be around Grant. That's the other thing. I
Ugh.
just don't want to be around that guy.
The only way I can describe it is just everybody else there is normal and he is not.
Oh,
That
I
is
get
the
it. You don't
best
have to
way I can
explain that to
describe
me.
it. And he doesn't, and everybody also is very professionally dressed, whether they are dressed like, the TV people were in their starchy shirts and things, but even the other guys are just very well dressed. And Grant is just an absolute mess. There's no other, from his hair to his clothes to the way he's just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
that.
speaking of Grant, we got some video. We got some different videos. Do you want to watch it? Have you seen the Turtle Boy?
I haven't seen
Grant?
it. What do we
You wanna watch
have?
this? Turtle Boy versus Grant.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
This will be fun. We could laugh. I mean, I don't know if
Okay.
you're gonna get in trouble with your bosses if you have to go before the comedy, but this
No, it's
is
all right. Let me watch this and then I'll let you go.
all right. So you do want to watch this.
Yes, I'm a glutton for punishment. Yes. What happened? This is when? Today? Yesterday?
I think it was from yesterday, and it just
Okay.
came out just like in the last hour or two.
Okay.
Let's put this up here. There we go. This is my comedy.
Oh, this is Grant's auntie. This is your auntie. This is your auntie.
Did Karen cut you off because you told Lindsay about Josh Levy? Grant, I love what you did when you're here today.
Stop.
Mind backing up a little bit?
Looks like a nice rat's nest.
Yeah, look at the
Why
tattoo.
didn't you bring her? Why didn't you bring her?
I got a tap back there.
Why didn't you bring her today?
No, it's my initials.
Why
Grant, is that your auntie girlfriend over there, Grant? No, that's my auntie. It's not funny to joke about your auntie girl. Oh, I know it's not. Did you really beat her, Grant? Did you touch her?
That is
Should we
aunt.
So when he said, "Does he have a swastika?" he says, "No, that's my initials." Like,
Wait, he has his own initials?
that's what I'm wondering. That would be a total Grant thing.
Mike,
Like, I
shut
can't
your
even-
face right
That's
now.
what he said. I'm sure he's being sarcastic.
I need
but
somebody to confirm that, please. Also, I have a little PTSD right now, but it's fine. You didn't have to
Look at
stop
his
on that
face right
exact
now.
picture, Mike.
Now I gotta note that the cell phone has this guy Elmo on his phone. Elmo was a good dude. He was a friend of mine. Elmo, and the Elmo's friends all hate Grant now.
Really?
They do, and because Elmo didn't like the police,
Mm.
so Elmo was an outlaw. He was like a cannabis outlaw,
Hmm.
and Elmo would not like what Grant's doing.
Really?
So all of Grant's Elmo's friends are like, why does he keep flashing that Elmo sticker up? Like,
Because he's an antagonist
well, he
by
thinks
trade.
he thinks that he has some credibility because he thinks he was friends with this guy Elmo. It's just so weird. He's such a
That's an
weird.
interesting perspective, Mike. I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, it bugs me because he told people that I had something to do with Elmo's death.
Really?
Yeah, his name was Kyle. He was a veteran. He's a friend of
Okay.
mine. I'm not going to say how he died, but because I don't really know.
How long ago was this, Mike?
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
And Kyle and I weren't talking at the end. We had some issues, personal issues, but I always felt like we'd get back because we were buddies. Like I was mad at it. Was more I was mad at him for some shit. I felt like he didn't stand up for me, and it wasn't a big deal. Like we would have been friends again.
Sure.
And then he passed away, and he was going through some shit too. Like he was acting a little crazy. Let's put it that way. Kyle was. His nickname was Elmo. People know who he was. He used to troll people. Like Elmo was a troll, and Elmo would go after people if you were a bad person in the cannabis space. And he had like a little, like almost like a little troll mafia, like what's her name? You know what I mean? Like
Kate, yeah.
yeah. So, but Elmo did it. I always felt like for good reasons. Like he had this thing with outing the effers, and that he called them. I'm not even gonna say it because I don't want to get the YouTube show, struck it down. But
Right.
he had his little terms that he would go after the bad people in the cannabis space. And so Grant kind of like tagged on to this guy. And I don't even know if Elmo really ever liked Grant. I kind of
Had
doubt
they
it.
met before? Like had Grant and him met?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they were somewhat friends, but I think Elmo right now is rolling in his grave. Like, I don't think Elmo really liked Grant, truthfully.
For someone like me who didn't know Grant prior to this, it's always interesting to me to hear your perspective of having a history of knowing him and in the
I
industry.
mean, think about this. Yeah, I had him on my show, gave him everything, taught him all this shit, gave him all these networking opportunities, met all these people.
Yeah.
And then he totally shat on me. And I
Right.
didn't know it. Like he turned around and told everyone all these lies about me. And for like a year, he had told people I killed this guy.
Really?
Who was my friend. And he said that this is how crazy he got. He said that I did it with Curaleaf, the owner of Curaleaf, the Russian gangsters, that I was with Curaleaf, and I've never worked with Curaleaf. I've exposed Curaleaf. I've gone after the biggest cannabis companies.
Right.
Now, and Grant turned around and said that I was working with them, and myself and Russian gangsters killed this guy, Elmo,
That's terrible.
who's my friend,
Right.
who I was the first one, just like Grant. I introduced Kyle to everyone in the movement. Kyle used to be like my little intern on the show. Basically, what he did is we had a studio show back then. So he would bring guests up. If we were live and we were still waiting for a guest, he would get them up to the studio. When we had a problem with a guest, he would make sure they left the building without any incidents. Kyle was like that kind of guy. He would always bring the good smoke for us after the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just a really good guy. Kyle was. Elmo. So this is the type of guy Grant is. And I have like a dozen plus people he told that to.
That's
and they all,
wild.
it's so weird because those people didn't really know me. They were kind of like new people in the cannabis scene. I kind of removed myself a little bit because of Grant.
Right.
And so a lot of them believed it. And then they realized, like, after hanging around with Grant for like 6 months to a year, that he was full of shit and that I was actually an honest person and that Grant had been lying about me. So they all told me about it. This is the type of guy.
How terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Mike.
I mean, it is what it is. Once you know, you know. I've seen him do stuff even worse to people. And the reason I got in his shit list is because I stood up to him for shit he was doing to people.
I think it's interesting that in a very small amount of time, he's been able to display really kind of what he is, and like I just said, to see the extra layers of that with the history of him and you knowing a little bit more than we knew, it really just kind of lends to what we're dealing with here. You know what I mean? So as sad as it is, my perspective on Grant is he can't hurt me. He can't hurt you.
Exactly.
He can say these things. It's very obvious the majority of people do not believe him. For him to make an accusation, you were, obviously adjacent to something like that is terrible. But if there's any consolation, Mike, it's that really people just do not believe anything.
That's what I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I mean, look at this buffoon. Let's watch more of him.
Try to go fund me for her. Is she a victim of you?
Like that,
Is she a victim of you? Auntie, what
see
did
that
he
weird
do to
smile?
you? What did he do to you? Did he lay it? Do you want to go fund me? Do you want to go fund me? What did you do to her, Grant? What did you do to her? What are you doing?
Did you like that, AK?
What did you
Did you like that?
do?
See
Grant?
that
What did you
moment
do?
right there?
Look at his
Mike,
eyes.
That moment right there where he's talking, you can't underestimate Grant.
Yeah. I mean, look at those eyes.
Ugh.
Did you like that?
I'm feeling uncomfortable.
This is the real Grant right here. Like when he starts smiling.
Yeah.
What did
Mike,
you do
I have
Auntie? Leave Auntie alone. Leave Auntie alone.
Hours.
Leave Auntie alone. There he is.
8K and 20.
Any comment on what you did?
Wow,
to
you're not scared of me
Auntie,
this time.
Auntie,
Who's taller?
what did he do to you?
Who's taller? That's what he wants to. Grant, you finally wanted something. You found a person shorter than you.
I mean, literally the last thing that you can control in your life, your height.
This
and
is
there's
like
a win for
something
him.
that 5-year-olds talk about. I'm taller than you.
Look at this poor state trooper that has to watch this whole thing.
Yeah.
That state trooper just staring.
He's laughing too.
South, what are you, a State Street VP or something? Listen to you.
Yes. Grant, do you still need money for food?
Right now?
Yes.
No, my aunt got me a sandwich.
Oh,
No, I gotta.
I can't.
His aunt got him a sandwich.
I can't.
Because Mike Crawford got sick of buying him food and buying him weed. I used to get, seriously, I would work. I'm a full-time, walking dogs. And he's like, I'm a little short this week. Can you help me out?
Really?
Yeah. He used to hit me up all the time. I need a little money. I need a little weed. I'm going to write those stories I told you. And then he would never write them.
I'm going to tell you something, Mike, as down and there's everybody has ups and downs in life. That's a very hard thing to do, is to ask friends to borrow money.
Yeah.
And for him to do that so casually and so frequently, I mean, doesn't he have like a, not a GoFundMe. What does he have that people?
Oh, he had a GoFundMe. He raised, he's done this multiple times, by the way.
Wow.
When COVID happened,
yeah,
he all of a sudden needed all this money for masks. I should talk about that actually. If Wendy Murphy, if you're listening, Grant went around and told everyone that the reason he needed all those masks is because you flew and got sick, and he was worried in his house that he was going to catch COVID from you, Wendy. So your own son shit talked you to a lot of people so he could raise money
For masks.
Yeah. I mean, this is Grant.
You're not being facetious, right?
No,
Is true?
this is exactly what happened.
Okay.
He told me that his mother was irresponsible and she flew during like the COVID scare right at the beginning. And then she came home sick and that she was wheezing and wasn't going to get tested because she didn't believe in it and that he needed masks to protect himself. So he went on, did a fundraiser and raised a bunch of money. And then I think he sent me 2 masks in the mail at that time. It's like he was Robin Hood. He was raising money and I mean,
my issue or my concern here is that because he's around so much, right? And he's so much fodder online and we're talking about him now. We're guilty of this, right? We are normalizing or making ourselves more accustomed to him on a daily basis when we really actually need to stay very sharp and aware of this guy, because I just think he is unhinged. You stopped a couple times when he's talking. I really believe, having been around him and seen how he acts. Listen, that guy was so nice to me when I first met him, and within hours was shit talking me online. That's like maniacal. You know what I mean? And
oh
it's
yeah.
just,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I do not want to be around him.
I mean, I
at
could sit
all.
here all day and tell you stories, like some of the
Ugh.
stuff he's done to other people. I
Hard
don't want to tell
pass.
you all the stories because I don't know who's all comfortable with them, but yeah, let's just we'll
Ugh.
watch the rest of the video because it's
Yeah.
comedy. That's this point.
Your aunt got her a sandwich. That's great.
What if she's a domestic violence victim? Do you think that's
She is, because you touched her. Why did you do that to her, Grant? Sources are telling me.
Sources.
Developing story. Any comment? Any comment on that? FBI sources are telling me that you did this, Grant. Is this true? Is this true? Is this true? Is that true? FBI sources. FBI sources developing shocking news. Shocking news. Shocking news. We're shocking. Any questions, Grant? Grant, why aren't you answering any questions?
I want to know where Leah
Grant,
Pereira is.
where did you get that jacket from, Grant?
Every time I
Where
say
did you get
something,
that?
he yells louder.
Did you get that as a gift, Grant?
Who's Leah
Did you get that
Pereira?
as a gift, Grant?
She's an FBI agent.
Did you get that as a gift? Are you working for the FBI, Grant? Did the FBI give you that jacket, Grant? Did they give you that jacket, Grant?
Look, he
That's
knows
great.
he's been owned. He stops it. He turns around because he knows he's been owned. That was
So
hilarious.
great.
That
That's
was so
great.
great. You pretended like, oh, I just lost interest. I'm
Yeah,
talking
sure.
to the guy that I've wanted to talk to for months, and now he's making me look foolish. I'm gonna walk away and pretend I wanted to talk to someone else.
Oh, he was loving it though. He was loving it.
Yeah,
So he obviously has another version of that from his perspective. I
yeah.
haven't seen that.
I haven't
but
seen that either.
yeah,
But
that's
I've
great. I
heard
love
that.
the questioning at the end.
Yeah, I heard that the Turtle Boy versus Aiden debate just came out from Court TV. There,
Yes, I'd like to see that.
we should look for that right now. Does anyone know where that is? Post a link. Don't tell us that it came out. Post a link to it in the chat, please, so we can find it immediately. I want to post that one next.
Mike, I've got to let you go.
You got to go.
I do, yes.
I'll let you go then.
It was a pleasure, and I love when you invite me on. I really, I like what you do. I like when you ask us questions, but I also like towards the end here when we start conversing back and forth and telling stories and stuff. It's great.
We haven't talked about music this time.
I know. Give me one thing. All right, let me ask you one question.
Yes.
If there's one thing you can recommend that I listen to between now and the next time I'm on your show, what should I listen to?
I don't know. I mean, you like Pearl Jam or not?
Yes, I do. Have you heard the new
Well, that's what I'd
album?
say. How about the new album? Have you heard it? I haven't.
I haven't.
Yeah, we
Have
both
you?
need to listen. I've only heard a little bit of it,
Okay.
so we both
let's
need to
do
listen to
some
the new Pearl
homework,
Jam
right?
album. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll do some homework.
that's it. Listen
Okay.
to the new Pearl Jam.
Perfect.
What is the name of that album now?
I don't know, but I saw somebody I knew was at a listening party a couple days ago, so they got a little sneak peek before everybody else. But listen, Mike, there's a new Pearl Jam album. Kings of Leon have a new album coming out, and Taylor Swift has a new album coming out. So we have our work cut out for us.
We got a lot to do.
We do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming down tonight, Jessica.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for everything you do. You're great.
You too.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks to everybody for following and listening. And you guys are also great. Thank you.
Thank you. And they're giving you suggestions in the chat you might want to check out for some other music to listen to too.
I will. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. That's Jessica Machado. Check her
Thanks,
out
Mr.
on
Crawford.
Twitter. It's awesome. I want to thank Jessica. I want to thank Mazza Media. I want to thank all the comments. I want to find this. I want to play more video. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Bev. We're going to play a few videos, but because I'm going to look for this other video. I want to find this other video. So stick with me. I'm just going to play a couple videos and then we're going to look for more videos. I want to play videos tonight.
May I call the case, Your Honor?
Please.
This is 2282CR117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth moves to trial.
Okay.
Ms. Reed, can you please stand? You are now set at the bar to be tried, and these good men and women who I shall call to pass between the Commonwealth and you upon your trial. If you'd object to any of them, you must do so before they are sworn. You have a right to challenge any 16 jurors without giving reason. Thank you.
All right. So good morning again, counsel. Good morning again, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. My name's Beverly Canoni. I'm a judge of this court, and I want to welcome you here this morning. Jury service, as you know, is one of the most important duties that we have as citizens. Our system of justice simply would not work without you, and we appreciate that you're here today, ready, willing, and able to serve if called upon to do so. So
You are unmuted.
we're selecting a jury today in a criminal case that you just heard, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. The Commonwealth alleges that on the morning of January 29th, 2022, at approximately 6:04 a.m., the Canton Police Department received a 911 call reporting an unresponsive male party in the snow outside a residence at 34 Fairview Road within their town. Officers responded and discovered the male party, later identified as John O'Keefe, off the roadway in the front lawn area. Officers identified 3 women with Mr. O'Keefe, one of whom was the defendant, Karen Reed, the girlfriend of Mr. O'Keefe. The defendant had been with Mr. O'Keefe the previous evening at 2 different bars in Canton and had driven with him to his residence in the early morning hours of this date. Mr. O'Keefe was treated by paramedics from the Canton Fire Department and transported to the Good Samaritan Medical Center, where he was later pronounced deceased. The Commonwealth alleges that the defendant struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle earlier that morning and then left the scene while Mr. O'Keefe lay injured in the snow during a blizzard. The defendant denies that she has committed these or any crimes alleged in this case, and she has pled not guilty. So the defendant is charged, as you've heard, with second-degree murder and also charged with manslaughter while operating under the influence and leaving the scene after causing personal injury or death. I will describe these crimes in detail at the end of the case when I teach the jury the law, but briefly, murder is the unlawful killing of a human being. In order to prove the defendant guilty of second-degree murder, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed an unlawful killing and that it was done with malice. In comparison, involuntary manslaughter is an unintentional, unlawful killing caused by wanton or reckless conduct. These terms and the elements of the crimes will be explained to you in detail at the end of the case before you begin.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the debate. I just found it. Do you guys want to watch this? Let's see if we can bring this up.
Talk about that. What is your response to that?
The Commonwealth would have us believe that Karen Reed, after intentionally striking John O'Keefe with his car, did perhaps the most incriminating thing she could do and leave angry voicemails with them. That is the last thing. To me, that is more exculpatory than inculpatory, because a guilty person would not leave a message saying, I hate you, immediately after hitting someone. An innocent person was. A person who was upset that they thought their boyfriend went out and got drunk and didn't come home. That kind of person. People have left voicemails like that with their loved ones before when they get upset with them. That does not make them a murderer. That does not explain why John O'Keefe has dog bites on his arm. That does not explain why Lucky Lochran did not see a body at 2:30 a.m. That does not.
I love these little comments. Victor Mendez, Mike is a moron. Think about how much of a moron you must be, though, to be posting on my YouTube while it's going. This is going to rule. Let's watch this. Let's watch more of this. I love the haters. It's funny. We have this moderator, MJ, who I really like, but she tends to block them more than I would. And it's like, for me, I'm just like, leave them. Like, unless they're talking about, family, or I don't give a shit. I actually like the haters. I like Victor Mendez, because I guarantee you that's not his real name, probably. And who the hell is he leaving a hit and run comment? Victor is so stupid, he doesn't even tell you why I'm a moron. I mean, that's how meaningless his comment is. How dumb he is. If I call someone a moron, I tell them why. Someone says, I support blocking them. They distract the chat, making it annoying. Yeah, but you know what? It's like, who cares? It's like that one person. Is it really distracting you? I enjoy them. I like to see a little hate in the chat, because I know how miserable they must be to be watching us and commenting like moron. Like, if you notice me, I probably do watch Kevin more than I should, but I really comment. And usually I watch it on the Glarer. And that's where I comment. But let's watch this trial. I mean, this debate, the supposed debate.
Explain why Ryan Nagel did not see John O'Keefe inside or outside of the house. And by the way, the Apple Health data is substantial, and he's wrong about the waste thing. He just made that up. The Apple Health data uses.
Exactly. This is a great point. I love trolls, cheap entertainment. It's so true. It's so true. And they're your biggest fans. Yeah, like, just best thing about Riccio is he watched every show I did. You know what I mean? They're just needy and looking for love. Sometimes I give them love, like Kimberly. Kimberly actually did a good video, that love vote video. I really liked the love boat video she did. The love boat. I think Kimberly probably doesn't get enough love at home. Like, I'm guessing. I'm going to guess on that.
Internal cocoa clock, which measures seconds from the year 2000. It is the most reliable form of telling time possible. And it shows that John was ascending and descending stairs from 1221 to 1224. It's Apple. I mean, it's freaking Apple. We don't have to explain the reliability that our society has on Apple. If Apple Health data is unreliable, then we have nothing. Additionally, not a single person inside that house who left that house, there was 11 in total, said that they saw a body when they left the house. Not a single person saw a body. However, I'll tell you what Lucky Lochran did see when he went back at 3 a.m. was he saw a Ford Edge parked in the exact same spot where John O'Keefe's body would be discovered 3 hours later. Remember, he did not see a body there prior to that. And then he saw a Ford Edge, and then 3 hours later, boom, a body appears there. You know who owns a Ford Edge? Colin Albert owns a Ford Edge. Brian Albert owns a Ford Edge. Kevin Albert owns a Ford Edge. And the police to this day have not done a single thing to track down who was driving a Ford Edge parked directly next to where a dead police officer was found 3 hours later. The same lead investigator, Michael Proctor, who we now know is close family friends
with the primary and most important witnesses in this case, that he lied to a state grand jury about his relationship with them, that he was offered.
I love the chat too, because the same guy says, you're spreading, I'm here because you're spreading lies. Again, not specific. You're going to accuse someone of spreading a lie, quote them. Quote what we spread that was a lie. As Tanya said, what lies? And she's going to wait. I'll wait too. Quote me, Victor Mendez, because you are spreading lies. What lies, Victor? I think you just lied, Victor. I think this statement accusing us of spreading lies is a lie. Quote, this, because you are spreading lies, that is actually a lie right there on the screen. And I want to know why you're up here, Victor. Who are you? Are you just a random person, or are you one of the McAlberts hiding behind another troll anonymous account? Didn't you guys like spend enough time threatening to throw me in jail and to sue me? I mean, figured out that I'm not gonna cave to your bullshit. Because I noticed a lot of you have gone quiet lately against me because you know that I'm not going to put up with it. All right, let's watch the video. I know people are like, get back to the video, Mike.
Gifts by Julie Albert, the mother of Colin Albert, on the day that Karen Reed was arrested. She wanted to thank him and send him that. So I don't care if Karen Reed was smooching with the entire town of Canton. I don't care if Karen Reed left angry voicemails with them. None of that explains all of the much more damning exculpatory evidence that I just went over.
Okay, but Aiden, you have to contend and you have to concede that I don't think anybody is saying that Karen Reed.
Does this guy Grant really think like he needs to look in the mirror a little bit, buddy? Like, you look really goofy already. You haven't even said a word. Your facial expression, you're up and down, trying way too hard, dude. Maybe look in the mirror a little more. Listen to your broadcast that you go on, Grant, because you kind of do suck.
Intentionally hit. I don't even think the Commonwealth is saying that she intentionally backed into him.
Oh, yes, they are.
I mean, it sounds like they think she was drunk. They got into a fight. This is the theory. She got into a fight with him. They argued. She was drunk. He may have had that glass in his hand or whatever from the bar, and that she backs it.
Here's why you haven't been able to stay quit from drinking.
In front of us.
Alcoholics Anonymous has less than a 10% success
into him and takes off. And maybe she didn't even realize what she did. And then she's
you disagree with the Commonwealth,
cursing him out.
And you disagree with
that's
the
Commonwealth. That's how I read it. That's how I read that document.
Hold on, Anjanette, can I weigh in here? Because I think I deserve it.
Oh my God, look at this guy. He just cut off the host and Aiden speaking. Rude. No tact. Because he deserves it. He's like a little baby.
That John did that John was hit intentionally. It's undeniable. That is what they've.
No, that's wrong, Aiden. You're putting out misinformation. This is a malice theory of second-degree murder. I'm sure Anjanette can explain it to you if you don't want me to. The malice theory of second-degree murder has three possible prongs. Two of them involve intentionality. One option does not. One involves recklessness as the mens rea, which means a reasonably prudent person knew or should have known that
this is what Grant loves to do. He loves to use the big words. When I used to edit his writing, I'd be like, dude, why are you using these big words? There's no reason. He would look up in the dictionary. He wants to show how smart he is because he looks up the big words. Another example of Grant doing this. And Grant, the big words don't make you sympathetic. They make you look like an asshole. They make people not like you. You're like the egghead who wants to toot his horn and tell everyone how smart they are.
Acted in a way which could have resulted in death. It does not require intent. It does not require foresight of the death having potential to occur. It requires only that the defendant should have knew or should have known that their actions, to wit, in this case, DUIing and backing up in anger while John was around the car, had a reasonable and plain likelihood that could cause death. That's the standard. It's not intentionality. You're wrong, Aiden.
I'm actually not wrong
that
because
is-
actually in the filings, they specifically said that that
Look at this
Karen
child.
backed
Look at
up
him.
62 feet and hit the maximum speed of 24.2 miles an hour. 62
Looks like, what does
feet
he look
at
like he's doing
24
right
miles an hour,
there?
which by the way is physically impossible. We've recreated that several times, particularly in the snow, and yet nobody heard it. That is not an accident if somebody does something like that. If somebody intentionally guns it at another human being, that is not an accident. So let's be clear. The Commonwealth is alleging
But you understand, Aiden, let me quote this at you.
I
The
wanna get in
second
here for
degree.
Do you
a second.
understand
I
how
would-
smart I am, Ian?
let me get in
Aiden?
here.
Let me. Just like Wendy. Look how his oh my god. Oh my god. This is hilarious. This is gonna look at Hayden. Hayden's just like, oh my god. I got the most annoying woman's voice over here, this lady. And then I got crazy, man.
Here. I've read the documents. You can intentionally gun
Is
your
he
vehicle,
smoking weed on
but
the
not
side?
intend
What's he
to
doing?
hit somebody, and that's
Bobbing
how
for
I read
apples?
it. And
What the hell is
and
this
I
guy
read
doing?
when I read through the documents, and I've read them twice. That this
He
laying out their theory
This
of
is
the
a
case was
this is
that
already a
they got
train
into a
wreck,
fight.
and it just started. Maybe I did skip ahead a little bit. I did skip ahead. Maybe we'll go back to the beginning. This is bad. Oh my god. This lady's like, who did I bring on this show?
She was drunk. I mean, this was a bad relationship. It sounds like it was on the
She
rocks, and it was
accidentally-
probably
she
ending.
went-
And that she was mad. She may not have even realized she hit him. I mean, that's how I read the documents.
You didn't hit a
So,
200.
Aiden,
You wouldn't notice
He's
he had a
bobbing for apple.
217-pound body going 24 miles an hour. You wouldn't notice that. Come on.
if
not a
you were
single
drunk,
person
I
heard it?
don't know.
And not a, and by the way, both
Well,
cameras
let's-
across the street have ring cameras on them. Ask how many of them were pulled by police. Zero. There's hundreds of ring cameras on homes and businesses between 34 Fairview Road and 1 Meadows Ave where she went. Not a single one of those videos was pulled by police. Not one. If they had just found one ring camera video with a broken taillight, Karen Reed is 1000% guilty. But they did not do one. And the lead investigator in charge of this happens to be good friends with the McAlberts and was offered a gift by Julie Albert on the day that Karen Reed is arrested. Ask yourself why.
And
Well,
I've
can I
read
respond
that
to
in I've read that in the defense filings. I want
Yeah,
to
what is he? Is he
discuss
smoking weed
very
on camera?
briefly
Like seriously.
the dog
Dude,
bites, this dog bite theory.
You can't wait.
Because we haven't heard that really specifically addressed by the state. So
Like I smoke a lot of weed, but you know what? Like I can go a show without lighting up. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And it's so funny too, because he thought he won this debate. Unbelievable. It's like, dude has no self-reflection at all.
I've seen the pictures. We can't show them on YouTube. I know they're out there on other channels, but we are not showing them. I've seen the scratches. They're vertical up and down. You contend their dog bite marks, attacks from Chloe, the dog that was in the house. Aiden, that's your contention. So tell me why you believe so strenuously that John O'Keefe was attacked by a dog, because there's no mention of that in the information from the medical examiner in the prosecution documents.
I suggest everybody watch Attorney Melanie's list.
Mark Zuckerberg
Oh,
just
God,
built
the
a
commercials.
$100
Come on,
million
you're killing me.
bunker in Hawaii.
Oh. I don't care about what Mark Zuckerberg built in Hawaii.
Canine expert and dog bite expert Garrett Wing on January 13th. You can check it out on YouTube. He is a person who has seen thousands of dog bites over the years and knows exactly what they look like. And he believes with absolute certainty that those are dog bites from an untrained police dog. Police dogs are taught specifically to latch onto a victim's arm. They will not let go. They're taught to hold on. But an untrained dog like Chloe, who, by the way, also according to Canton Animal Canine Control records, sent 2 other people to the emergency room and biting them. An untrained dog like Chloe will grasp onto you And if you pulled your arm away, it would cause
Thinks he
marks
wins
like
the
that.
debate by making ugly
And
faces.
it's undoubtedly that those are clearly,
Like, dude,
clearly
I think the audience wants to
lacerations,
look at you
not
doing that.
abrasions. We all know what an abrasion looks like. It's insulting to us to suggest that those are abrasions. And keep in mind, medical examiners don't see dog bites a lot because most people.
Like, one thing I've noticed too in this video so far, whoever is running the show, they haven't done a, like, if you notice, they keep, when Grant does that shit, they go to a close up to Aiden. They haven't done any close up to Grant so far that I've noticed. It's like they can't wait to get the camera off Grant because he's such a train wreck.
Who die are not killed by a pack of wild dogs. So they don't really see a lot of dog bites on dead victims very often.
All right, Grant, this is our last point, the dog bite theory. Your response.
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry I forgot to address it earlier. This is simply not at issue in the case, Anjanette. The defense has said there's no
Well, they
dog
finally
DNA
do
at
on.
issue. It's not in any of the moving papers, as you know. What it is actually a microcosm of everything that Aiden
A
Keenly reflects
microcosm.
in this case, which is we, as you know,
Micro
Anjanette,
dick.
in the legal profession, are subject to the federal rules of evidence.
Oh,
which I keep
look
in
what
my
I just
pocket at
happen to
all
have in
times.
my pocket
Those federal
here.
rules of evidence limit what can come in a trial for a reason.
God.
Mr. Kearney, however, in an
Pretentious.
attempt to poison the jury pool, can say whatever he wants in the hope that it will potentially cause one juror to hold out and vote for a not guilty verdict. However, because the fact that dog DNA is not an issue, and the fact that these autopsy photos came out from the defense and were hypersaturated, it's all an
I wonder why they
indication that
cut
this
away
is a
from him
distraction,
again.
and it's not even going to be brought up in the case. And one more thing to bring this back. It is very, very, very clear that Karen Reed probably did not intend to kill John O'Keefe. But it is also clear.
Good point. This is a good point right here. Grant doesn't even address a word he said about dog bites. Very good point. We in the legal profession. Did he actually say that? You know, when I was talking earlier about Grant's conspiracy theories about the Russian gangsters from Curaleaf, I confronted him at one point. I was like, dude, you're a joke. Like, how could you think that they even give a shit about you? Like, you think that they're going to come after you? Like these Russian gangsters? You think they would actually give a shit about you?
That Karen Reed probably found the body before she went to Jen McCabe's and had a complete meltdown as a result. Mr. Kearney can't address Karen's behavior, the breakdown of the relationship, the exceptions to the character evidence rule, and the hearsay rule for a domestic relationship gone bad in the lead up to a second-degree malice murder. He can't address any of the evidence related to Karen's statements after she did hit John. And he can't even address why Karen won't release the ring videos from her parents' house in Dighton that would show that taillight crack in that early morning. She released a still. She won't release the other videos. She's guilty. He knows.
Look how red his face is. Look at that face. Look at that. Look at that. Seriously. That looks like a guy that's on some junk. Speaking of which, Grant didn't talk about the dog bites.
She's guilty. He worked for her PR team. She burned him, and it's over.
Okay, so we're just making things up. PR team.
I love it. Oh, here we go.
This is the part where we start making things up. But
Making up shit.
All right, guys. I hope we can revisit this as the case moves forward. But just so we're clear, I mean, Karen Reed doesn't have to release anything. I mean, she doesn't have to provide evidence that can be used against her. So let's just clear that up.
Even that lady knows Grant's full of shit. I mean, he thinks he won this.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Grant. You're full of shit. I had to end the debate early because you're so full of shit. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna actually. We'll finish this. Hold on.
Kearney, Grant Ellis, appreciate you coming on.
Look at that smile. Oh, thumbs up. Like I really did a good job.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. It's so sweet.
And we'll continue to follow.
I'm gonna apply the. I started a little.
I'm Javi, and I got Botox Cosmetic. There was a particular photograph. The
Goddamn
line.
animals. We don't need any Botox.
So in the free Karen Reed camp, the leader, really, in my opinion, of that camp is Aiden Carney. He goes by Turtle Boy. He's a journalist. He says he's worn once.
Notice, Grant, it's Aiden Carney, not Aiden Kearney. It's Aiden Carney. Aiden Carney, Grant. She got it right.
Awards. He's award winning. And we also have Grant Ellis. He's a law student who believes the evidence points to Karen Reed's guilt. So thanks both of you for joining me. I want to start with you, Aiden. You've been following this from the very beginning and you believe that Karen Reed is innocent. Why?
The autopsy photos are inconsistent, and the FBI agrees that with somebody who's been run over by a car. John O'Keefe was not run over by a car. He had no broken bones. He had no bruises anywhere from the nose down. He had a 3-inch laceration in the back of his head. He has dog bites, what are clearly dog bites, on his right arm exclusively. There's two witnesses, Lucky Loughran, the plow driver who drove by the scene at 2:30 at 34 Fairview Road and reported that not only did he not see a body 12 feet from the curb, that if there was a body there, he most definitely would have seen a body there. Ryan Nagel, also, who was directly behind Karen Reed when she pulled up to 34 Fairview Road, reported that John O'Keefe was not inside the car and John O'Keefe was not outside the car, and that Karen Reed's taillight was in perfectly pristine condition. So if John O'Keefe was not inside the car and John O'Keefe was not outside the car, then John O'Keefe certainly must have been inside the house. This is backed up by the fact that Apple Health data shows John ascending and descending 3 flights of stairs between 12:21 and 12:24, which Karen Reed's phone does not, indicating that they were not in the same place because Karen Reed does not have steps inside of her car. Additionally, of course, Jennifer McCabe undoubtedly was inside the house and is the sister-in-law of Brian Albert, the homeowner. Undoubtedly, and the FBI investigation confirms this, Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. A Google search that she then subsequently deleted before handing over her phone to police. She also deleted all of her calls between 5 and 9 a.m., including 2 very incriminating calls to her sister, Nicole Albert, at 6:07 and 6:08, that lasted durations of 9 and 7 seconds, which she deleted from her phone, which is extremely suspicious and evidence of consciousness of guilt.
Okay, so there was a lot there, but I do want to say we don't know exactly what the FBI expert said. We know what the defense says the FBI expert said about the injuries and whether or not they were consistent or inconsistent with being hit by an SUV. I want to turn to Grant now. Grant, why do you believe the evidence points to Karen Reed being guilty?
Well, I think there's really 2 important views on the evidence related to Karen Reed's guilt. The first is what is not true about what Aiden was just talking about. So let's take it one by one. And Anjanette, I think you pointed it out rightly. The FBI expert that Aiden's referring to was only provided 2 extractions by Mr. Yannetti, Karen Reed's counsel. But what Aiden neglects to mention is that the FBI conducted a separate analysis, this time using Axiom and Celebrite. And the conclusion of that analysis was that the searches were conducted at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. and it was done at the behest of Karen Reed. That was the timestamps, and the Celebrite internal expert himself.
I'm powerful. I'm Grant. I'm very powerful
about those searches. So that's to address just a primary false.
The primary
why I think there's some evidence of Karen Reed's guilt. Going to something else that
something else
talking about. Mr. Kearney knows the evidence in this case shows that
Mr.
John's
Kearney.
Waze data, John O'Keefe's Waze data, does not show him arriving at that house until 12:24. So the 3-second window where Mr. O'Keefe at 12:21 a.m. in his Apple Health data went up and down 3 flights of stairs in 3 seconds is entirely an errant and unrelated piece of information. If the Waze data, which it does, confirms that Mr. O'Keefe didn't arrive at 34 Fairview until 12:24 a.m.
Like I'm out of breath. Like all the arms and the seriously, I feel like I just like did an aerobics class here. I think that's probably the most exercise Grant's had in like months. The Waze data. I like this one. Grant is animated and not in a good way. I like that one. That was a good comment right there. Is that another one? The louder I speak, the more believable I am in my own mind. That's Grant. Another one is the larger the words that I use, the more I think I'm fooling people and really just showing people I'm a pompous guy with low self-esteem. That's really Grant in a nutshell.
a.m. Furthermore,
Furthermore,
there's also evidence that
what
Mr.
was
Kearney
that?
doesn't
Let's
even
watch
address,
that
and the
one again.
omission of it
Oh
is
my
so
god!
telling as to
Oh
Karen
my
Reed's
god!
guilt.
This
Mr.
is
Kearney doesn't address the voicemails.
Wait. Furthermore, that was like a power move, Grant. Wow.
A piece of information if the Waze data, which it does, confirms that Mr. O'Keefe didn't
Do you think he
arrive at
practiced
34
that in front of
Fairview
the
until
mirror?
12:24 a.m. Furthermore, there's also
Furthermore,
evidence that Mr. Kearney doesn't even address, and the omission of it is so telling as to Karen Reed's guilt. Mr. Kearney doesn't address the voicemails from Karen Reed right after 12:45 a.m. when she is alleged to have hit John, screaming that she effing hated John, that he was a pervert, and that he was sleeping with other women.
this guy, look at. Yeah, seriously, Grant looks better when his mic covers his face. He's in his mom's basement. No kidding. It's he's so stupid too. Like, because if Karen actually did hit him, the last thing she would do is leave those voicemails. I mean, the voicemails arguably, if I can say the word, arguably make her look more innocent. I need a glass of water. Hold on one second. They make her look more innocent. As if someone had hit their boyfriend and killed him with a car, she wouldn't be leaving those voicemails. She'd be leaving voicemails like, honey, I'm so glad we had such a great night. I'll be back to pick you up in an hour or two. Like that's the voicemail she would be leaving if she had premeditated murder in her mind. I mean, this guy is like, he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but he's got no common sense. That's Grant. He's a colossal F up. It's a joke. Yeah, why would she? And why would she call him that night and yell at him? I could see why. It reminds me of myself and my girlfriend. I can see us getting in arguments just like this. One wants to go somewhere and the other doesn't. That doesn't mean one of us is going to kill each other. It just means that we have differing priorities at that moment, which is real. Doesn't look fake. This mental midget can't figure that out because he's never had a relationship. You think he's ever dated a woman? Think he's ever, or a man or anybody? Do you think he's ever had a 5-year relationship with someone or even a 1-year relationship with someone? I don't think so. Not that I ever knew. But those of us who have been in adult relationships, we see this all the time. She yelled at him because she wasn't, she called him and left a voicemail because she wasn't happy he went over to that house that night. She wanted to go home. Why wasn't the bar enough? Why can't we just go home? Normal relationship.
And what else does Mr. Kearney not address? That just 1 month before John's death, Karen Reed herself started an affair with a federal agent.
Oh my
I believe
God,
Mr.
Grant.
Kearney knew about this.
Oh, she started an affair. What a heathen. What a little Jezebel. He seemed very upset by that. I wonder if he's ever like been in love with a girl and then she hooked up with someone that he didn't like. That's what it sounds like. Who talks like this? When I was younger, I had a girlfriend cheat on me. I think I've had a couple girlfriends cheat on me. I didn't talk like that about it. I don't think I talked about it at all. You know what I mean? It's just like next girlfriend. Like who can I date next? I mean, that was basically how I felt at that point. People cheat on each other especially when you're younger. And I don't even know if she did cheat on him. It sounds like there was one innocent kiss that happened. And it sounds like they used to date before John and Karen dated. But Grant wants to run. She's a Jezebel. So therefore she must have killed, because anyone who cheats is a killer.
Affair and covered it up from the public.
Look how sweaty he is. Just look at that. He looks like Nixon in that. Remember the debates of Nixon with JFK? Look how angry he is.
Herself started an affair with
an affair. Oh my God, she started an affair.
Federal agent.
With a federal
I
agent.
believe Mr.
That makes it
Kearney knew about
worse.
this
That makes
affair
it
and
worse because the affair was with a federal agent. What?
Covered it up from the public to try to protect Karen Reed in the lead up to this trial. And that federal agent that Miss Reed was cheating on Mr. O'Keefe with, on the January 15th, 2022 Patriots game, that agent went over to John's house, and Karen followed that agent down to the basement on his way out and gave him a kiss and said to him, "Federal agent, I know where the..."
What does this have to do with anything? Notice earlier we played a clip where he totally ignored about the dog bites, but now he's talking about stuff that is like ridiculous. Again, this is Grant. He's like in the 5th grade. This is stuff a 5th grader would talk about. Because, you know, when I was in 9th or 10th grade and a girl cheated on me, we didn't talk like this. Like, this was stuff you would leave behind in 5th grade. A kiss.
Cameras are. So I know that this will not be caught on camera when I go to kiss you. And the reason why that's relevant, Anjanette, and this goes to the last thing.
This is why it's relevant. It's not because it's salacious. It's not because I want to turn Karen Reed into a Jezebel. Look how much he's sweating too. Shiny forehead. Aiden's as calm as can be. Yeah, that whole thing about needing food, I don't believe that it's for food, people. I don't think that guy's missed any meals. Let's put it that way. Does he look like he misses meals? Yeah, seriously, he does. He's got his whole mini hard on watching himself on the screen. That's Grant. Yeah, he eats. Notice he's always got a Dunkin' Donuts. Like, I can afford Dunkin' Donuts. I got the money, but I don't. If you ever see me at Karen Reed or something walking in, I'd be walking in with one of these, a thermos, if they even let me in with one. But I mean, that's what I carry. It's usually filled up with water or coffee because I'm a cheap mother effer. Because I work for my money. This guy is bumming money from everyone, walking in with the Dunkin' Donuts every day. Exactly. I love this one. Dunkin' only in a pinch, or like as a reward, maybe. Every once in a while on a Friday, maybe. You know? Usually I go to McDonald's if I'm going to go anywhere because they got the cheap. I like their coffee. It's cheap and decent. I like Dunkin' coffee too. I mean, I would love to have a Dunkin' every day, but I'm too cheap. I mean, if you got the money, or if you can just bum it from people, if you're just a little short every month and you don't mind asking all your friends for money, Look at this guy, though.
Is that there were 17 ring videos
He thinks
deleted
of like
between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. from John O'Keefe.
the more Grant gets fired up, the more he gets like this. He thinks he's like winning the debate. This is how he wins. Yeah, McDonald's has good coffee. Newman's, I believe it is. I always get the large hot coffee. I like the iced coffee too, but I always get the McDonald's large iced coffee. I always say a tad of cream, but they put too much cream in it. I like no sugar. Usually I like my coffee black, but for some reason I like the McDonald's with a little bit of cream, but they always put too much in. This is a good comment from Haley. This is like watching a Saturday Night Live skit of Grant Smith Ellis, except it's real. Exactly. This is like so entertaining. Oh my God, this is a good one. I mean, I don't think you should compare this kid to Hitler so much because he's not like Hitler, but the way he speaks that's an interesting point. He's got that Jim Jones, Hitler, definitely. The Mussolini. I mean, I you guys, a lot of you guys I know like Trump or Republicans. I don't like Trump. I don't mind Republicans. I just don't like Trump. I don't even see him doing this shit. I don't even see him doing like getting so amped up. And that guy gets pretty amped. I mean, I will give him one thing about Donald Trump. He does know how to give speeches. I mean, the guy, I think he's a train wreck, but he's a good communicator. I don't like this clown. This clown is not a good communicator verbally. You know, one of the things that Trump has going for him, even though he's a billionaire, a lot of people are like, he's just like me. You'll never see anyone say that about Grant. He's just like me. Because he's not. He's trying to lord over people. He's trying to pretend that he's powerful, that he's got this knowledge. He's trying to use the big words. But it's all low self-esteem. He's got nothing. That's Grant Smith Ellis. You don't see Hayden doing this shit.
O'Keefe's ring system, which
Doesn't need
Karen
to.
Reed had control over, according to John O'Keefe's niece. And so that, Anjanette, coupled with the fact that Karen Reed went back to Fairview Road before going to Jen McCabe's, is evidence that she saw the body, had a panic attack, had a meltdown, and then tried to bring witnesses back to the scene, knowing that body was there, which is why Karen Reed started screaming before she got past the tree line coming up to Fairview Road when she went back to the scene with Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts. That's the reality.
My journey with my teeth
Oh, not
started at a
another
young age
commercial.
when I had teeth that would break. I had already
out a lot of information in there, and a lot of what Grant said is laid out in
A
some
lot of information
prosecution
or a lot of spaz in there. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. A lot of spazzing.
documents, particularly the one that was pushing back against the motion to dismiss filed by the defense. And there really is some information in there in that document that is inculpatory, that makes Karen Reed look bad, and it does point to her as the person who killed John O'Keefe, that maybe backed up and hit him. What do you say about those voicemails where she is
particular?
calling him and cursing at him
Oh yeah, let's talk
after
about
the
that.
fact, allegedly
Let's
after
talk
she
about
hit him?
that.
What is your response to
So
that?
the Commonwealth would have us believe that Karen Reed, after intentionally striking John O'Keefe with his car, did perhaps the most incriminating.
See, look at this. This guy is a master communicator. You can say what you want about Turtle Boy. People can. But I don't think anyone, look at him. He's not spazzing out. He's not with the arms. He's not going like crazy. He's just normal as can be with all the, facts right before him.
Thing she could do and leave angry voicemails with them. That is the last thing. To me, that is more exculpatory than inculpatory, because a guilty person would not leave a message saying, "I hate you," immediately after hitting someone. An innocent
Bingo. See? Same thing I just said earlier. It's so true. So true. Yeah, here's a good comment. He's not a good communicator because he's so high strung. Terrible manifestation of energy for a speaker. Exactly. Exactly. He's terrible. This is why we should actually encourage that he be the leader of the McAlberts. Number one, he's a snake in the grass, and he'll end up turning on them eventually. Anyone he's around, he burns. And number two, look at him. He looks like a train wreck. And Aiden is just calm, collected, right to the point. Yeah, Aiden was a teacher, and I believe one of the parents was a former lawyer. Of course, his communication is excellent and not spastic. Exactly. I mean, you look at my history too. That's mostly what I was. I was early on. I was mostly a substitute teacher. I did like one long-term gig for like 1 year as a full-time teacher. But I was a head wrestling coach. I coached wrestling for a number of years. And then I was a financial advisor, which is mostly just sitting with customers and educating them on investments and their money and how to save. And that's mostly what I did for a number of years. Now I have my dog business. That's a little different, but I have kind of that same education background too. And I think the big thing when you're an educator, you don't talk down to people. You try to meet them where they're at. And it's always worked for me because I'm kind of a working class guy, so I just be myself. Right? Even Aiden, like, there's a little bit of, he is the smart guy, but he's very common. And people like that. I think that's one of the reasons people like Aiden so much is because he is a smart guy. But he's also very common. He'll meet you at at where you're at.
Person was a person who was upset that they thought their boyfriend went out and got drunk and didn't come home. That kind of person. People have left voicemails like that with their loved ones before when they get upset with them. That does not make them a murderer. That does not explain why John O'Keefe has dog bites on his arm. That does not explain why Lucky Loughran did not see a body at 2:30 a.m.
It's so funny. Someone said I need help investing. Man, I kind of do miss it because I really did help people. And I feel like now I'm just helping myself. And sometimes I wonder if I shouldn't start doing some shows on stocks. I would just say it's tough right now, but I would buy the growth stocks. Then I would buy the best of them. That's my advice. Like the Nvidias and I like MU right now. Micron. Buy some Micron, MU. Buy one of those Vanguard growth funds.
That does not explain why Ryan Nagel did not see John O'Keefe inside or outside of the house. And by the way, the Apple Health data is substantial, and he's wrong about the Waze thing. He just made that up. The Apple Health data uses an internal cocoa clock, which measures seconds from the year 2000. It is the most reliable form of telling time possible. And it shows that John was ascending and descending stairs from 1221 to 1224. It's Apple. I mean, it's freaking Apple. We don't have to explain the reliability that our society has on Apple. If Apple Health data is unreliable, then we have nothing. Additionally, not a single person inside that house who left that house, there was 11 in total, said that they saw a body when they left the house. Not a single person saw a body. However, I'll tell you what Lucky Loughran did see when he went back at 3 a.m. was he saw a Ford Edge parked in the exact same spot where John O'Keefe's body would be discovered 3 hours later. Remember, he did not see a body there prior to that. And then he saw a Ford Edge, and then 3 hours later, boom, a body appears there.
That's a good point too. I like this point. Someone said that people love the working class guy who made it big, but doesn't forget his roots. I swear to God, I think that's one of the reasons Grant used to hate me so much, is that I am very much the working class guy. And for some reason, especially in the cannabis community, because of my work ethic mostly, and what I exposed and kind of, some of the actions I took over the years, I was a leader too. I did a lot of events. I did a lot of fundraising for the cannabis reform cause. And so people respected me. And I think it used to bug Grant big time, because Grant is this guy like, look where I came from. Look at who my family is. Look at my money. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the reasons he's got such a bug about Aiden too. We're not from that high end world. We've had some Venmos come in and some Cash Apps. I just want to acknowledge them. Hayden Kane sent $2. She said you should see what Plevin is spinning right now. Oh, do I want to put myself there? You got to be a little more specific if I'm going to have to put myself to Plevin's channel right now. We're dealing with Grant's silliness. You may, but I appreciate the contribution big time. Thank you, Hayden Kane. Let's just check. I know there were some that came in on the Cash App, actually. Let me see if there's any on Venmo. Yes, Elizabeth sent $10. She said, thanks, Mike, for the coverage. Thank you so much on Venmo, Elizabeth. And the other night, too, Stacy D sent $10 too, and she said, thanks for the reporting. So I want to acknowledge that one from the other night. Cash App. Paul James sent $10. He said, for a good show tonight. Thank you so much, Paul. And all right. Looks like we had another. This is the weirdest one. I had a donation come in from Jeffrey, and then they took it back. Or maybe he did it twice. Let me see. I don't know what's going on here. I've never seen this before. He's given us money before, so it's all good no matter what's going on there. I'll read his message either way, whether the money got canceled or not, because I know he sent me money before. And he said, for Tiff and I, respect your work from Detroit, free Karen Reed. So I guess Jeffrey's watching from Detroit, which is awesome. Thank you so much for watching and your contributions in the past. All right, let's get back to this video and let me know what is Plevin talking about tonight? Why do we even need to pay attention to Plevin? What's he spinning now? All right, let's watch more of this Grant crap.
Owns a Ford Edge. Colin Albert owns a Ford Edge. Brian Albert owns a Ford Edge. Kevin Albert owns a Ford Edge. And the police to this day have not done a single thing to track down who was driving a Ford Edge parked directly next to where a dead police officer was found 3 hours later. The same lead investigator, Michael Proctor, who we now know is close family friends with the primary and most important witnesses in this case, that he lied to a state grand jury about his relationship with them, that he was offered gifts by Julie Albert, the mother of Colin Albert, on the day that Karen Reed was arrested. She wanted to thank him and send him that. So I don't care if Karen Reed was smooching with the entire town of Canton. I don't care if Karen Reed left angry voicemails with them. None of that explains all of the much more damning exculpatory evidence that I just went over.
Okay. But Aiden, you have to contend and you have to concede that I don't think anybody is saying that Karen Reed intentionally hit. I don't even think the Commonwealth is saying that she intentionally backed into him.
Oh, yes, they are.
I mean, it sounds like they think she was drunk. They got into a fight. This is the theory. She got into a fight with him. They argued. She was drunk. He may have had that glass in his hand or whatever from the bar, and that she backs into him and takes off. And maybe she didn't even realize what she did.
Now,
and then she's
disagree with the Commonwealth,
cursing him out.
And you disagree with the
That's
Commonwealth.
what. That's how I read it. That's how I read that document.
Hold on, Anjanette, can I weigh? Anjanette, can I weigh in here, because I think I deserve a chance to respond.
That John did that John was hit intentionally. It's undeniable. That is what they've.
No, that's wrong, Aiden.
I love that he just ignored him. Aiden just basically ignored him completely, and he had to scream like a fool. Aiden, you're wrong.
You're putting out misinformation. This is a
Imagine him telling Aiden that he's putting out misinformation. Grant, who nobody trusts. Pot, meat, kettle, Grant. Grant is so much about disinformation. The Massachusetts State Cannabis Control Commission put out a press release. A lawyer wrote this. A lawyer actually, think about a lawyer that works for the state of Massachusetts, put out a press release calling Grant out for his misinformation, his lack of journalistic standards and ethics. I've never seen anything like that in my life before. And everyone in the cannabis community just shrugged and were just like, yep. Like nobody, there was nobody who was upset at the Mass Cannabis Control Commission for putting out that statement. Everyone's like, yeah, you guys are right on the mark. If the Mass Cannabis Control Commission had attacked me, I'd gone after them over and over and over again about the death of Lona McMurray. If they had put that statement out about me, there would have been such an outrage. People would have been like, you guys are hacks. What are you doing attacking Mike Crawford? But no, they put a statement out against Grant, and everyone was like, yeah, go Mass Cannabis Control Commission. I mean, that's how much of a joke you are, Grant.
Malice theory of second-degree murder. I'm sure Anjanette can explain it to you if you don't want me to. The malice theory of second-degree murder has three.
He does this a lot. I'm sure somebody else can look at his eyes right now. I'm sure somebody else can explain this to you if you don't want me to. Yeah. I mean, of course, both of these fools too are wrong, and Aiden was right. I mean, this is the funniest thing. There was a moment I had a couple shows ago when I had Sean McDonough on, and we were going over how do you pronounce lemonade, and I got it wrong, and Sean was trying to correct me, and I was like, no, and then I realized, like, Louis, I'm trying to correct Sean on. Of course, he knows. I don't know. This is like these two jokers trying to correct Aiden on this. See, I had the good sense in like 5 seconds to realize who I was talking to. You got Sean McDonough talking about legal stuff in the courtroom with all the criminal cases he's been involved in. You go with what Sean McDonough's saying. Oh, I also got to shout him out. We were talking about some great other shows. Melanie Little is obviously awesome. I'm going to check her show out later tonight. The Galera, I like a lot. Sean on the Gulf. Sean McDonough is on News Nation tonight. He's on that new network. Chris Cuomo's on. I think he's on with Ashley Banfield at 10 p.m. I'm going to be checking that out tonight. Really looking forward to that.
Three possible progs. Two of them involve intentionality. One option does not. One involves recklessness as the mens rea, which means a reasonably prudent person knew or should have known that they acted in a way which could have resulted in death. It does not require intent. It does not require foresight of the death having potential to occur. It requires only that the defendant should have knew or should have known that their actions, to wit, in this case, DUIing and backing up in anger while John was around the car, had a reasonable and plain likelihood that could cause death. That's the standard. It's not intentionality. You're wrong, Aiden.
I'm actually not wrong because actually in the filings they specifically said that Karen backed up 62 feet and hit the maximum speed of 24.2 miles an hour. 62 feet.
Look at him bobbing for apples, man.
At 24 miles an hour, which by the way is physically impossible. We've recreated that
Oh,
several times,
Aiden,
particularly in the
Aiden.
snow, and yet nobody heard it. That is
He's
not
got a crush on Aiden. You can see it right there. Bobbing for apples on Aiden.
an accident if somebody does something like that. If somebody intentionally guns it at another human being, that is not an accident. So let's be clear. The Commonwealth is alleging.
But you understand, Aiden, let me quote the sentence.
I
The
want to get in
second
here for a
degree.
second. Let me get in here. I've read the documents. You can intentionally gun your vehicle, but not intend to hit somebody, and that's how I read it. And I read when I read through the documents, and I've read them twice. That this laying out their theory of the case was that they got into a fight. She was drunk. I mean, this was a bad relationship. It sounds like it was on the rocks, and it was probably ending. And that she was mad. She may not have even realized she hit him. I mean, that's how I read the document.
You read them differently than the state lady. You know what I want to do now? I think we've had enough of this. I do want to go to Kevin right now. Can you guys handle it in the chat? I don't know. Will you stick with me if we watch the little Kevin right now? Yeah, looks like we're lost some of our audience anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I can't believe he still does this opening with the Lee Mage and stuff.
Hey guys, good evening. I hope that title didn't confuse people. No, my analysis on this case does not change at all. But there are some things that I want to talk about. And afterwards, I'm going to go over the video that is the debate between Grant and Turtle Boy. There was some good things in it by both of them. They're both intelligent and veteran. Well, Turtle Boy's a veteran of this kind of thing, and Grant is becoming a veteran, and he is a law school student. So he's been around the hill before. And
he's a law school student. Look at him. Oh, Kev. I think every time Kev lies, he touches his head.
Some of these kind of discussions. So what did I want to talk about? Let me get there the long way and bear with me.
Do I owe apologies in Karen Reed coverage? See, this is Kevin's new thing. He is such a hack. He does these clickbait titles because he needs people to watch. No one wants to watch him anymore. So he has to do the clickbait, and then he has to explain himself.
With me. So just going through things, how they happen. So today I was at the supermarket after the gym, and I was going down. As I was getting ready to leave, I realized I wanted to get some pickled jalapenos. I knew exactly where they were on the shelf. And I go to the shelf. I go to the aisle where they are. I know it's a lot of times I'm lost in the store, but I know exactly where these pickled jalapeno peppers are, and they're up on the top shelf. And in there is a family that literally you could tell they had just arrived in this country, or at least the children and the wife had. They were Islamic, and I would guess from some place like Ethiopia. Maybe the father had been here a little longer. He seemed a little bit more comfortable. But the kids and the wife literally looked so uncomfortable, like they had just come out of an alien environment, landed here yesterday, and ended up in a supermarket, and were just completely. They had that look of like you would have if you went to their country.
Tell us a racist
Especially
story,
if you
Kevin.
went there and you
Tell us a
unsure if
racist
you
story
could
to open
begin a new life
your
there. I
show,
don't mean you
bro.
went.
I mean, what the hell is this? I saw these people at a supermarket. I'm just going to have all these preconceived notions about them now. Dude. I mean, can we do the preconceived notions about you and your little weird background that you have here?
There as a visitor. But imagine if you moved from here to Ethiopia, and that was where you now had to make your fortune, make your life for you and your family. You'd be a little insecure, right? And they had that look on their face. And they happened to be standing right where I wanted to go, and they weren't sure what they wanted or something, or how they were confused. And I just said politely,
Maybe you were
excuse
confused,
me,
Kevin.
and they were so quick to get out of the way. I felt bad about it. I felt like, because I wasn't in a hurry, and they seemed nervous, like deferential, like, oh, here's the American, get out of the way. And everybody stood back, and I reached up and I grabbed it, and I saw him looking at me. And then I looked at the father, and he smiled, and he goes, and he says with a very heavy accent, he goes, "That's what I was looking for." So he was looking for the jalapeno peppers too. So I grabbed the jar and I handed it to him. I said, "Oh," and he goes, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And the look on the faces of the wives, the wife, the wife and the kids, and she's wearing the hijara or something. The daughter was too. They were, really dressed. They weren't dressed like, you could tell they were foreign. And they just went through this whole absorbing this experience. They looked at the exchange between me and the father, who was really friendly and happy that I handed him the peppers. And I said, hot. And he goes, "Oh yeah." And then they just relaxed. It's like, wow, here's an American and he's being nice to us, and he's just a regular person like us. And it's a stupid thing, but it was a human moment to me. And as these things kind of do, they trigger a time of self-reflection in me. And I don't know why it always happens in the supermarket. It happened to me during COVID when I first went into a supermarket and everybody was wearing masks. I got a little
Zombies
emotional
and
thinking about that too,
dummies
like
and how
just
smart
all the
he
different
is.
ramifications of that. But so this moved me, and I started thinking about other things, the way I've covered this case. So I heard earlier in the day from someone, I'm just going to say her first name. Some of you guys might know her, but her name is Sandy. And she's somebody that I spoke with last summer. And this was maybe when I was, I'd say 60, I went from being 10% or 20% in favor of, so I used to be like, say, 80 or 90% in favor of the conspiracy. And by this time, I was now down to about 20%. It was close. It was starting to get close to the point of being impossible to me. But she wanted to talk to me. So I gave her my number. This was last summer. And we talked for, I don't know, an hour and a half, maybe. And she was a really good person and really intelligent. And she had spent her life in law enforcement. And, but she had different feelings on this case even then. Not that she was certain. And that's why I like talking to people that aren't certain and they have questions and stuff like that. And so she has still followed my channel, even though she remains pretty strongly free Karen Reed. Certainly believes that the state has done something. I don't know if corrupt to be the right word, maybe botched, but something more than botched in this case. But she still sticks with the channel. She's not generally active in chat, but she every once in a while messages me, and I realized that sometimes I've been a little harsh.
Sometimes
on people that
sometimes
that,
Kevin,
that believe strong, that have strong feelings.
Sometimes
that might be different than the conclusions that I've made on the case.
You're a zombie, Kevin.
And so you go back and forth. Is like where
zombie.
So if I create an image that's really meant to be playful, but shows that some of the free Karen readers depicts them as zombies,
you're a zombie.
Is that something
Kevin.
I should or shouldn't do? Should I apologize for that? And I don't really know. I'm not saying that I've reached a definitive decision on that. I don't know. One thing I do know is I don't want to.
You know how you don't change people's minds, Kevin? Call them zombies. When we were trying to reform marijuana laws, cannabis laws, when we successfully won 2-1 the state of Massachusetts, we didn't call other people zombies. No, you know what we did? We said we're just like you. Cannabis users are like everybody else. We didn't call them zombies. When people said we're against cannabis, we said, well, your kids probably use it. Do you have any friends that use it? We didn't say, oh, you're a zombie because you don't believe in cannabis. Just, some free advice. You guys have sucked. You guys have done, Kevin, you've done the worst job. You and Grant and Kate Peters, guys are terrible. Not good at PR. Not good at convincing people, changing minds. You're unlikable. You call people minions. That's not how you win them over. Now, I'm not someone that has never called a politician some names, but that's not about winning them over. When you're going after a politician, that's to point out to that politician that, number one, you're not going to take their crap. But more importantly, we did a protest. I did a protest a few years back with Scott Brown when he was a state senator in Massachusetts. And the reason I did that protest is because he wanted to recriminalize cannabis. And he was the first one to kind of raise his hand after we had decriminalized. Said, oh, we're going to recrim. We showed up. We started protesting him. Called all the media. Bunch of media showed up. I got on WBZ radio. Whole 9 yards. We show up at the protest. Even before the protest. Dude's calling. His aide's calling me all day that day. Will you please cancel the protest? We'll have a private meeting with Senator Brown. I said, no. You tell Senator Brown that I want him to disown this bill that he put out. I want him to acknowledge that the bill is wrong. It's pretty much what he said to the press that day. And the reason we did that was not even to win Senator Scott Brown, a state senator at that time, over. I knew he was never going to support cannabis. He was anti-cannabis. Why we did that is because we wanted to point out to all the other state reps and state senators that if you pull this shit, we're going to protest you too. So that's an example of when negative campaigning, going against someone works. But when you go after an entire movement of people, call them zombies, that's losing. You're a loser. You don't know what you're doing, dude. You're in over your head. Maybe you should have talked to someone who's actually won campaigns.
Make good people like Sandy and many other people some that email me almost every day, that have been on different parts of this case, but don't agree with my conclusions. And I have always been, for people that are respectful and polite to me, I always respond back. And
yeah, you think when Kevin started calling me a jellyfish, that helped me? It helped me because it helped me in terms of I didn't feel like I had to be nice to Kevin anymore. I mean, before that, I was telling people to be nice to him. Oh, he's just a guy that doesn't agree with us. But when he started calling everyone names, including me, going after my credibility, this guy has no credibility. What's his experience? It's a joke.
with some of these people, I won't say their full names, but like I think Colin Forrester, we could probably say, because he's someone that maybe is in a little different place than he was 6 months ago on this case. But there's another guy, Jay. There's a whole bunch of other guys that have different feelings on this case, different people, women and men. And if they're respectful to me, I'm respectful back, and we have generally productive conversations as far as you can go through emails. And I get a lot of emails, so I don't always have time to get in to answer every possible question on it. But then I do still feel bad about the other people that are good people that have strong feelings on the case, that maybe, even though I've been careful to always say that I respect everybody who has a different opinion, as long as they're still asking questions and as long as they're not so certain. Those people I still have a respect for, but have I been too hard in talking about zombies and stuff like that? I don't really know. And I'm just going to always.
If you're too certain, you're a zombie, but Kevin could be 100% certain. See that double standard there?
Promise to continue to be introspective. Maybe it helps to talk about my experience on this case, which another aspect of that came up because talking to Dave McGrath on the phone today, Dave said, have you ever given any thought as to what this would look like right now for us and my channel and things like that, if things had been played out a little bit differently, which in particular, mostly if I had continued to lean towards the conspiracy. And you think about this now the national media is here in force. They're all over Dedham. They're all over Canton. And they're picking everything up on this. And I can remember back when Dave first went to cover one of the hearings in June, and we did that live. Man, there were technical glitches because we had problems trying to figure all those details out on this. I was covering it from the home, and Dave was at the court in Dedham, outside the courthouse. And, Dave is an extremely likable guy. He's also not bashful, so he knows how to get into situations. People, if he approaches them, they'll talk to him because he knows how to handle people. And people will approach him because they recognize him and they like him and they trust him. And he was full free Karen Reed. And at the time, I had more questions, but I was still free Karen Reed. And if I had stayed on that path, if I had stayed full ahead, mostly conspiracy, how big would the channel be now? It would make possible all the other things that I wanted to do in starting a channel, just to have a way to get your books out or to get whatever else you want to do. And can you imagine if we were still covering this case like that and Dave was at the courthouse? No offense to Tom CPU, but Dave would have been a much better at just walking around and talking to the crowd and getting people to talk to him. So I think, in that context, Aaron was a good part of the team too.
He's getting all wistful about what he blew. Look at all the opportunity, Dave. You and I lost all this money because I'm an idiot.
People really, I welcomed having Aaron on the team for several reasons, but I wanted to have a woman's voice as part of it. And Erin's graduated from law school, so I've always wanted to have someone that, as part of the team, that has more legal experience. And she was a good part of the team too, because as a corporate researcher, she was able to get information that we needed. So we really had formed a very solid team.
I wonder if Dave was realizing finally that Kevin screwed him over.
And then we also put together a group in Discord that was just for us. And
What is he
people were
getting at?
being added to the team.
That's good. What is he getting at?
This Tom Fleming, my longtime friend, has some broadcasting experience and is very intelligent.
Yeah, this is a good one.
And he now lives down south, but is a
If
base
they
state
had
guy,
made me
grew up in
butthurt, where would we be now?
There was a couple other people on the team, including people that were behind the scenes but weren't going on the air, including Mizzy, Mizzy, who has played a big role in covering the Sandra Birchmore case and keeping that in the public mind. But all of them, to the last, were 100% free Karen Reed, 100% conspiracy. And it's just my nature to always ask questions until something is proven to me. And when Turtle Boy first had me on his show, I think that was in June. It was because he had seen a post I had made on Reddit that was a lengthy post that had raised some objections.
Where did he go from the Sandy conversation to Dave, now to Turtle Boy? He hasn't made a point yet. What is up with this dude?
And so he called me right away. That was the first time I talked to him, and he wanted me to go on his show. And so we scheduled. Now, clearly, his intention was to try to destroy me on his show, but it didn't go that way. He actually was respectful, and we had a good dialogue on the show. And I was not really the sense of an opponent in the sense that I was, on the other side. I was now just kind of firmly planted in the middle. I was struggling here with what was real and what wasn't, what made sense of the conspiracy. And I just kept asking questions like that. And then we started doing more lives. I hadn't done a live actually until I think maybe that, I think June, maybe that courthouse one might've been one of the first ones. And man, there were 2,000 people watching it. So for me, that was a big deal, a big opportunity. It's so hard to get a YouTube channel going, It's so hard to build an audience.
Oh, poor Kevin.
So when you suddenly are struggling to get 20, 30 people,
Tito, give me
and then all
some
of a sudden,
tissue.
boom, you've got two.
First, I ruined my YouTube channel because I got in a fight with Aiden, and it would, should have, could have, would have been. Seriously, dude.
1,000 people. It's a big deal. It just opens up so many opportunities for other things that you want to do, and it feels good to have people being friendly to you and stuff like that in chat and wanting to be on your side. It was a thing you wanted to be a part of. There's a community there now, the free Karen Reed community, and you're connected to it.
Now you call them zombies.
But unfortunately, like I said, I'm someone that's going to keep asking questions until I'm satisfied. And for me, 227 was a vital thing. So I didn't understand how I had no understanding of forensic data back then. And when I first saw 227 in that original article by Turtle Boy on April 18th, so almost a year ago, a little more than a year now. Actually, today's the 17th. It'll be a year tomorrow. That's when it all began, right? In fact, for me, it began, I got messages from 3 people that were in law enforcement or law enforcement related jobs. But one of them was Dave McGrath. And he said, check this out. Now we were already friends. And they all gave me the links to the Turtle Boy story. I had heard of Turtle Boy. I had never been to his website or seen him. I guess he's someone that used to come in the bar that I used to own. I don't remember him. But it was a pretty crowded place, so it's not really surprising that I wouldn't remember him. I mean, he must have been behaving. You remember the guys that are being assholes, right? Those are the ones you remember. He was presumably behaving. So
slurp away, Kev.
We got one.
Gross.
So April 18th, got that.
God,
and of course, the only reason we saw potential in this story was because of this crazy cover-up. If it wasn't a cover-up, it's not an interesting story. It's a tragedy. It's terrible, but it doesn't have that same cachet as a cover-up would. And so 227 was presented to us as data. And if it was true, if it's just data's data, right? And if that's true, well, there's no way that Jen McCabe is making that search at 227 unless she knows that John is dying on the lawn. So that told me there was something going on. But then in June, Lally, the prosecutor, told the court that the state disputes that, and that they have an independent expert now, Jessica Hyde, who we could see was the best of the best. And she said no, and she gave a reason to explain it. I could explain it to you now, but there's no need to, because I'm not a forensic data guy, so you can find this better explanations elsewhere. But that essentially those searches were made, all 3 of them at 623 and 624. Now, that didn't mean that the state was correct or that Jessica Hyde was correct. It just meant there's a dispute here. And so this only fueled me asking more questions. But I saw my role in these initial lives that we started doing in June and July. And at one point, we were promoting a documentary we were trying to make on another set of disappearances. And so at one point, I was doing a live every night for 14 nights in a row in the lead up to that. And when that was going on, a lot of that I saw myself as my role is I'm the host, and I'm going to bring on Dave, who is an author, and interview him about things that are going on, things that happened in his book, aspects of his book, which is a really interesting book, Monster: The Life and Crimes of Wayne Chapman. And so I saw myself more as a host, but my job was to ask questions, and to me, the idea of a host is more to be in the middle, right? Whereas someone that's a guest or someone that's Dave was a regular guest, and so playing the role as he can play more the role of an editorialist in the paper. He can have a stronger opinion. And then it turned out that Dave, I didn't know this, had been training on forensic data, taking classes on it too. And so he said that 227 was a certainty. And it's not that I didn't doubt his honesty on that. The skepticism in me, I just couldn't accept that the state would have this Jessica Hyde, who was really elite, doing this. To me, it was just uncertain. And I was by myself on this. Nobody else was questioning it. Nobody on my team, nobody else wanted me questioning it. Nobody on my team wanted me questioning it. Dave even had put up on his screen name, 227 is real, or something like that. So it was a difficult, and as I kept asking more questions, people started getting more and more mad at me in the Free Karen Read side. And someone named A-Rod posted a piece in the Facebook group. Back then there was only one, but it had thousands of people involved in it. And it was basically like, what's wrong with Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tales? And the gist of it was, there's something wrong with him. He's stupid. He's got a brain tumor, or he's whatever. He's retarded. And Aaron and Dave need to chuck this guy because he's useless. And numerous people, maybe 100, essentially chimed in saying the same thing. That was the mob, And I had been quiet in social media up to that point. And all I had been doing was asking questions, and nobody even really knew what my position was at that time. just around.
So wait, for forever he said it's Aiden leading the mob, and now it wasn't Aiden. So people made fun of him on the internet. And that's a mob because he was acting like a moron.
Around that time, Dave asked me on the phone privately, and I told him I was 51% in favor of guilt. 51, so it was a 51-49 that's where I leaned, and he was surprised by that because no one else publicly seemed to have that position. And so I guess people could perceive I was leaning that way. So there was also around that time, I'm not going to say her name, but there was a woman who had even talked about maybe helping us on the documentary shoot. And she had been, see, when people communicate with me, if they're respectful and nice, I communicate back. And so she had been doing that. And at one point, I didn't know this woman, but she said, I'm having a bad day. Can I give you a call? And I was very busy, but I was like, okay, sure. And I probably talked to her half hour, 45 minutes, and she was going through a bad situation with her ex-husband and her kids. And I did my best to be supportive. You know, what do I know about that stuff? You know, and but I just did my best to listen and be supportive. This is for someone I didn't know. But as only weeks later, when it was becoming more clear that I no longer believed in the free care and in the conspiracy, she started turning on me, you know, in chat and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, but it's not even that it hurts really, because to me, people that you meet only because of the free Karen Reed thing, because of a case, it's not like you were friends with them beforehand.
Exactly. So why do you give a shit?
It wasn't really a big loss to me. But more, the thing that gets more
obviously does
an
bother
emotional
you.
reaction out of me is a sense of maybe me not doing something the way I should to other people that are good people, decent people that have questions about this case. And that's what gets me. I don't have any regrets or feelings about people that flipped on me when I flipped on Karen or whatever, you know, however they feel about it. I don't care. They were never going to be good friends anyways. But yeah, I do get more moved at the idea, like for instance, in that store with that family from Ethiopia or wherever, had I done something rude or not been nice, I feel bad about my own actions in that. And I feel, so it makes me wonder too, have I not been generous enough to some of the free Karen Reed people? And I don't really know, because it becomes really, if this was a debate about politics or a debate about who's going to win the Super Bowl, then you should be nice and respectful. But some of the aspects of this debate, of the free Karen Reed side, have certainly acted like a mob. A lot of them. They attack anybody that asks questions. They attack anybody that disagrees. That's what they were doing with me, with A-Rod back then. So I don't know. And I don't really, it's not about sticking up for myself, as what's been going on. They've been bullying those people in Canton that aren't accused of a crime, in which there is no real evidence that suggests they committed a crime. And yet you're going to call these people murderers. Now, it's fine for Karen's legal team to explore whether or not there was something there. It's even fine and acceptable and good for journalists to dig around and see if they found something that could look incriminating. But nobody ever has. And the people in the free Karen Reed side don't really have any they don't have evidence that's serious enough to be accusing other innocent people of being murderers. So, that I ghosted me with my invite for you. So Benjamin John says, I'm more offended that you ghosted me with my invite. I don't even know what that means. That I ghosted you? I don't know what that means, dude. I never could have. I would have loved to have made that spaghetti dinner, but it was about an hour and a half from where I live. So it just was not. I love spaghetti, as anybody knows. So I would have been happy to meet you down there, but I don't know what ghosted you means. Anyways, so I will always be introspective.
Dude,
people, if I've been not as patient with you,
slurping, Kevin.
especially if you come in the chat, if I haven't been as patient as I should be with your questions or your points or the things you disagree with, I do apologize, and I will try to do better.
Apology not accepted.
And I'm also very aware that it's very human for every person, once they put out a public opinion.
And let me just say, I usually always accept people's apologies, not Kevin's, because it's not heartfelt and it's not genuine and it's not real. So Kevin, apology not accepted.
Because this is what I believe. This is my analysis, and these are my conclusions. Nobody wants to be wrong, right? And certainly that's a fault that I am very well aware of in myself, is that I don't particularly like being wrong. I have many flaws, good points, bad points, but that can be a weakness. But I am introspective, and I try to look objectively at the evidence all the time. Now, in this case here, to me, while there might be reasonable doubt that will be established, we don't know until the trial. You know, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt to convict Karen. And at this point,
flip-flopping again?
It's reasonable to say that the evidence has not been established.
Oh wow!
There's a lot of evidence, and there's compelling evidence. And to me, I believe that once we get all the evidence presented to us in trial, I believe that most of us will feel pretty confident that Karen did do this. But we haven't seen that evidence yet. So
you were really sure a couple weeks ago.
But I'm sure that John didn't go in the house, and I'm sure he was not killed inside that house. Am I 100% sure? I'd say I'm 99.8%. Isn't that body temperature, something like that? I mean, it's just it's just impossible. The evidence, both physical and data, renders it impossible. So I'm not going to go over that at the moment. But let's just say, again, to people that I may have been a little short with, a little less patient than I should have been, I apologize. Just looking at my notes. Okay, so that's it. So let's go to the video.
Oh, let's watch him
Before I
watch
do that,
Grant.
this is a cool shot that somebody
This is
sent to me
hilarious.
from atop the courthouse in Dedham. Isn't that cool, guys? I'm sorry I can't make it widescreen, but this is from this is from above the courthouse. What a beautiful little New England town that is. And that's going to be crazy. Crazy. Maybe Friday.
Is Dedham really a beautiful
so they
New
managed
England
to
town?
seat 7.
I don't know about that.
Just play that again for you guys one more time. They managed to seat 7 jurors today. So they now have 11. That means they need only 5 more. So if they can they seated 7 today. If they can manage to seat 5 tomorrow, we're ready to go to trial. And we might be able to go to trial as soon as Friday. Might hear the opening statements. That'll be up to the judge whether she lets it go Friday or holds it off till Monday. Unfortunately, I can't say who took this video. They gave me permission to use, but not to say. But I thought it was a pretty cool video. All right, so let's go to. All right, I'm going to go to the video on law, and this is on the Law and Crime Network. And in this is a debate between Grant and Aiden. So I'm going to play it, but I will stop periodically to comment on it.
Being consistent. There are 2 people who represent just how divisive this case has become.
And it's not funny to joke about domestic violence, you coward punk. Did you really beat her, Grant? That is my aunt. Should we start a GoFundMe for her?
That's Aiden Turtleboy Carney talking to law student Grant Smith Ellis.
Are you working for the FBI, Grant? Did the FBI give you that jacket, Grant?
Carney runs Turtleboy Daily News and believes Reed is innocent. He's even facing witness intimidation charges in connection to the case. And if you think I touched on everything that's a point of contention in this case, yes, again, there's a lot more to discuss. So if you've been following this case, you know how incredibly contentious it is with the Free Karen Reed camp and people who think that Karen Reed is guilty and that the evidence points to her as killing John O'Keefe. So in the Free Karen Reed camp, the leader, really, in my opinion, of that camp is Aiden Carney. He goes by Turtleboy. He's a journalist. He says he's won some awards. He's award-winning. And we also have Grant Ellis.
He's not actually won any awards. The award is from Worcester Magazine, and it's poll driven, but you can also rig the polls. I actually, back when I owned a bar, I helped get one of the girls that worked for me won best female bartender, which not that she didn't deserve it. She was an intelligent, beautiful girl and stuff like that, but she had only been bartending for a short amount of time. There probably were women that more deserved it just because they've been bartending much longer. There's a lot of great women bartenders in Worcester. There were back then. I haven't been there for a while. But then another guy was a friend of mine who was not even working. He had passed bartending school, but we helped rig it so that he won best male bartender, even though he wasn't even working. So, yeah, that's Worcester Magazine.
He's a law student who believes the evidence points to Karen Reed's guilt. So thanks both of you for joining me. I want to start with you, Aiden. You've been following this from the very beginning, and you believe that Karen Reed is innocent. Why?
The autopsy photos are inconsistent, and the FBI agrees that with somebody who's been run over by a car. John O'Keefe was not run over by a car.
I mean, I just got to say, Kevin is so petty that he has to contest Aiden's awards. It reminds me of Grant, actually. I won a couple of awards too. Riccio and Grant, they always contested the awards I won. So petty, so friggin' petty. Talk about little dick energy.
He had no broken bones. He had no bruises anywhere from the nose down. He had a 3-inch laceration in the back of his head. He has dog bites, what are clearly dog bites, on his right arm exclusively. There's 2 witnesses, Lucky Loughran, the plow driver, who drove by the scene at 2:30 at the.
And Kev, I think the correct answer is Aiden won a poll. It's basically what it was. A lot of those awards are based on polling. Just like the Grammys, actually. It's America's, remember that one that the Grammys is like, the people in the music industry vote on it. But other polls, other award shows are just based, 100% on polling.
34 Fairview Road, and reported that not only did he not see a body 12 feet from the curb, that if there was a body there, he most definitely would have seen a body there. Ryan Nagel, also, who was directly behind Karen Reed when she pulled up to 34 Fairview Road reported that John O'Keefe was not inside the car and John O'Keefe was not outside the car, and that Karen Reed's taillight was in perfectly pristine condition. So if John O'Keefe is not inside the car and John O'Keefe is not outside the car, then John O'Keefe certainly must have been inside the house. This is backed up by the fact that Apple Health data shows John ascending and descending 3 flights of stairs between 12:21 and 12:24, which Karen Reed's phone does not, indicating that they were not in the same place because Karen Reed does not have steps inside of her car. Additionally, of course, Jennifer McCabe undoubtedly was inside the house and is the sister-in-law of Brian Albert, the homeowner, undoubtedly, and the FBI investigation confirms this, Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. A Google search that she then subsequently deleted before handing over her phone to police. She also deleted all of her calls between 5 and 9 a.m., including 2 very incriminating calls to her sister, Nicole Albert, at 6:07 and 6:08 that lasted durations of 9 and 7 seconds, which she deleted from her phone, which is extremely suspicious and evidence of consciousness of guilt.
Okay, so this is the opening by Turtle Boy. I think parts of it are very effective, but there's some things we can go over there, and then we're going to go to Grant's, and then I'm going to go back and just go over these points a little bit one by one, and maybe not address things that Grant already addressed or that Turtle, but just the things that maybe either one of them didn't quite get right.
Okay, so there was a lot there, but I do want to say we don't know exactly what the FBI expert said. We know what the
Conclusion of that analysis was that the searches were conducted at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. and it was done at the behest of Karen Reed. That was the timestamps. And the Celebrate internal expert himself is a witness for the state who will confirm that it's evidence that she saw the body.
First determined was the accident reconstruction. Say now, Lally has, and that's not to interpret your body. He put it in, but Karen accidentally missed a turn. She went past Fairview.
I'm skipping ahead.
Something that might be
The reliability that our society has on Apple.
but human memory is so unreliable. Was it really parked exactly there, or is that just how he remembers it later after this big case happens, right?
from the medical examiner in the prosecution documents.
I suggest everybody watch Attorney Melanie Little's interview with canine expert and dog bite expert Garrett Wing.
I suggest nobody bother with that. Melanie Little is clearly a PR agent for Karen, and that is not a dog bite expert.
Oh my God. So he's saying Melanie Little is clearly a PR agent for no evidence. Kevin is clearly a PR agent for Chris Albert, who he talks to all the time, he admitted. I mean, we could say the same thing. Except we actually know that Kevin talks to Chris Albert. We have no idea if Melanie Little has ever talked to Karen Reed, which I doubt, or her defense team. What a clown. Just after he did that whole spiel, how he's going to be nicer to people.
But it's a dog trainer. I mean, it's just ridiculous. If that's all they...
It's a ridiculous to think that a dog trainer would be able to recognize dog bites.
13th, check it out on YouTube. He is a person who has seen thousands of dog bites over the years and knows exactly what they look like. And he believes with absolute certainty that those are dog bites from an untrained police dog. Police dogs are taught specifically to latch onto a victim's arm. They will not let go. They're taught to hold on. But an untrained dog like Chloe, who, by the way, also according to animal canine control records, sent 2 other people to the emergency room and biting them. An untrained dog like Chloe would grasp onto you. And if you pulled your arm away, it would cause marks like that. And it's undoubtedly...
Yes, but when you look at the picture, there are no bottom marks. So it becomes really difficult to see how that's actually from a jaw. It's just not. I mean, they're also shallow. If you look at them closely, those wounds are very shallow. A dog attack is very different than, say, a dog playing around with you a little bit. But a dog attack is going to be vicious, and it does tremendous damage. And that's not an evidence at all on John's arm.
Clearly lacerations, not abrasions. We all know what an abrasion looks like. It's insulting to us to suggest those are abrasions. And keep in mind, medical examiners don't see dog bites a lot because most people who die are not killed by a pack of wild dogs. So they don't really see a lot of dog bites on dead victims very often.
All right, great.
All right, so we're going to have to, instead of accepting medical examiners, now the state also, we look on the witness list, they have an expert veterinary doctor from California, UC California, who's going to testify for the state that those are not dog bites. And we looked it up. This guy's very elite. So if you're not convinced by all the other evidence, for instance, the fact that no canine material was found on John's clothing, which is impossible if he had been attacked by a dog. It's just impossible. That should have ended the debate, and it doesn't seem like the defense is really floating this anymore. They haven't raised it at all. And even the judge, several hearings, channel for 10 years, so he's much more experienced at that. It was not in that kind of condition. That it was not.
I want to know who Kevin's James Clay is. James Clay gives every single show. Is that Chris Albert? I want to know, Kevin, who is James Clay? Who are your mysterious donors that give to your show every single? I have no James Clay. I have no James Clay. Who is James Clay?
Is missing, but it's not going to matter anyways because there's other evidence that's going to establish that. We're going to hear audio from Karen in her own words that she dropped a piece of that taillight into the driveway when she looked at it with Karen and Jen. We're going to hear that, and we're going to see that 822 image. So I did. Oh, there's been some donations, so I didn't even realize it while I was looking at the Let me say thank you. So first, we'll read out James Clay's comment. And thank you very much, James. The defense lies are about to be exposed for the world to see. Kevin, don't hold your breath waiting on Sean or Aiden's apologies. No, and just to be clear, I don't want their apologies. And I don't think what's more important is to the innocent people that have been smeared. But I don't think that they want the apologies. They don't want apologies. But what would be helpful is once you know that you're wrong, you can take the heat off those families by stopping to continue smearing them. Once you know that you're wrong, you could maybe reduce some of the pressure that comes from that vicious crowd outside the courthouse or all over Canton. There are people that believe Aiden and believe Sean in this case. So once they reach the point where the evidence is conclusive, they should come out and say, I'm sorry to the families. Sorry to the people that have accused of this stuff. I'm sorry. Because yes, that's what you do as a man when you make a mistake. So you're doing it for yourself, really, too. So if you're Sean or you're Aiden, you're doing it for yourself. You're coming clean. But most importantly, you're doing it for the families to take some of that incredible heat and pressure that they've had to live under because they've been falsely scared of something. So that's why you do it. But let me go through the other people that made donations because I really appreciate your support. This is Hey Den Kane. Imagine hitching your wagon to Grant. Oh my God. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to knock anybody out in that. But Grant did some things very well in that. Everybody that's not on TV all the time has to work on their style points. Everybody. So Grant can do a little work on the style stuff. I'm sure he will.
You think?
Grant Aiden, on the other hand, has been doing these shows all summer, and he's been running his own channel for 10 years.
And
so
he's not a
much more experienced in that.
moron.
Kathy said thank you, and she gave $10. Thank you very much, Kathy. I appreciate it. Oh, yeah, Kathy gave a super sticker. Wow, Kathy, thank you. You're going crazy. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's go back to the live comments. All right, so let's just see what you guys thought about that debate. Oh, I had an idea. Yes, it happens. I've actually already been talking a little bit over Twitter to Lauren De Laguna, and I know some people think she didn't perform that great in our discussion, but I actually disagree. Like I said, style points are different, and there were some style things that I would change about my performance and she would change. But I think if you go back and watch that, some of the discussion was better than you see anywhere else in terms of she had some good questions, and I think I had good answers. So what we thought about doing for another show is, just getting a message. What we thought about doing for another show is where she and I each make closing arguments for the case based on what we now know. So not based on what we know in 3 weeks, but based on what we now know. And actually, I'm thinking if we do this, this could be fun enough or useful enough that I would even invite other people that want to do that to come on. And I'm going to see if Lauren is interested in doing that and what time she wants, like what time limit she'd want to do. Now, normally there wouldn't be a bunch of, the defense is going to go with lengthy closing arguments, both the prosecution and the defense. And we don't want to do that for something like this. So I was thinking like each one of us has 5 minutes or 10 minutes to make the closing arguments, to make the strongest case that you can for what you believe is the truth in this case. And, so if she's amenable to do that, let's say we go with 10 minutes. She gets her 10 minutes, I get my 10 minutes, and then afterwards we just discuss anything else that you want to discuss in the case. No attacking of any other sources or content creators. I just want to have a civil discussion of the case. That's what I wanted before, and that's what I would want now. And so if she agrees to that, I think that might be something we could do. But there could be other people that might want to jump in on this. So let's say maybe we could even limit it to 5 minutes, right? If that's better, if we're gonna get more people. So anybody else, I see Heels is here. If you wanted to come on and make a 5-minute case for your impression of this, and Karen is here from True Crimes and Some Wine. So Karen,
true wino, true crime wino.
Case, whatever we all agree to, 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something, we'd all have the same. Hillbilly Nitro, he has his own channel, so if he wanted to do it too. So, but anybody though, I don't care who it is, if it's the Glare or Young Jelly, whatever, you want to come on and take a shot.
You know what, Kevin? No way. I'm not giving you any content.
It'll all be done respectfully. No argument.
Yo, respectfully. We're gonna be respectful now. You piece of shit. Cut the shit, you clown. You punk. If I did a show with you, it'd be knocking you. Seriously, you're a punk ass. Like I said, Kevin, I don't care. Well, one-arm push-ups, leg wrestling, thumb wrestling. I don't care what it is. Greco-Roman, folk style, boxing, basketball even. I suck at basketball. I'll play you in basketball. I don't care what it is, Kevin. IQ test. Let's do an IQ test. You think how smart you are. Let's do an IQ test. That's the only type of content I'd give you. Me kicking your ass. I'm going to sit here and debate the friggin' closing arguments for content for you so you can grift more. You friggin' grifter. You piece of trash. You call Will the grifter over and over again? And now you want his audience on your show. You scumbag. You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit to your own audience that you grift off of. Now you want me? Now you want the young jelly on because you're young jealous. You piece of trash. You scumbag. You dirtbag. You're lucky Lauren even does your show. Seriously, I don't even know why she does. She should just continue to come on my show and Turtle Boy show. She doesn't need your crappy 20 people.
Arguments, you get your whatever we agree on, that 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Everybody does it. And then afterwards, I'll stay on just with Lauren and we'll discuss the case.
Oh, you and Lauren, you scumbag. You're such a scumbag. Seriously.
Brandy, I don't know. Brandy doesn't seem to like things like, I don't know, Brandy, but I've communicated
Brandy
a little
doesn't
bit with her,
like
but she
you.
doesn't seem to
You're a
like confrontation, so that'll
scumbag.
probably not be her thing. But if she wants to come on and make her 5 minute
If
case
she
and then get off,
wants to,
that'll be fine.
you'll give
Anybody
her
that wants to make
5
a case,
minutes.
anybody that thinks they're good enough to do it.
You'll give her 5 minutes on your channel with no listeners, or she can go on her channel with way more listeners. Gee, I wonder which way she wants to go. Brandy, who has a brain, Brandy, who actually creates good content, Brandy, who actually leads, Brandy, who's actually nice, a really nice person. Why would she ever go on your show? She has not even that, probably 10 times the audience that you have, Kevin. And your people have been nasty as anything to her. You're a joke. Begging people like you were begging me. You've been begging me for months to come on your show. And then when I wouldn't, you started making up nicknames. Like that's going to help you get me on your show. You should have played the pity thing. I am a sucker for people. I probably would have done it for the pity factor. But once you started calling me Young Jelly, that was when I just wanted to challenge you. Let's go. Thumb wrestling, Kevin. I said IQ test. You think you're smart? Let's sit down and do an IQ test. Let's do the Iowa test. Let's do an SAT. Let's do whatever you want, Kevin. I'll challenge you in Space Invaders, Pac-Man. I'm not even good at video games. I'll do anything, Kevin. Let's go. One-on-one, you and I.
Heel says she's doing a show tomorrow night and Lauren is going to troll. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of trolling that goes on in the case. And so as long as you don't do it on that episode.
Yeah, you think Kevin's hot to Lauren? I definitely do.
Make her 5 minute case if she wants, or 10 minute case, whatever we decide to do. So what do you guys think about that? So basically closing arguments, or it would be a Reader's Digest. That's probably, you guys don't even know what that is. It would be a shortened version of closing comments, closing arguments. That
who wants
any one of us
closing arguments? One, just boom. Like, let's have a boxing match, Kevin. Closing arguments. Boom. Seriously. Let's do this, Kevin.
YouTube creators,
or
anybody
creators.
else.
Nobody wants to do a show with you, Kevin. You're lucky you have Lauren. Lauren's probably the only one. No way will Brandy ever do a show with you. She's too smart. And she has a huge audience. Brandy has a huge audience. Lauren's just making a little name for herself by toying with you, it seems like.
Do it. And we would do it. So, Karen, you're still here. You said, Lauren, no, this is Lauren De Laguna, who was on a couple weeks ago on my channel. And so if you wanted to do it, you could come on and let's say we all agree to 5 minutes. You'll get 5 minutes just to make whatever your case, whatever you want to say about your closing. Ideally, we want it to look like closing arguments in the case. It's kind of actually what Grant.
Gee,
and
just
Aiden
what I
did
want.
there.
I want the true wino on the show to tell us what's going on. Like the closing arguments from the true crime wino. One of the dumbest people that I've seen on this. Let's bring up Kimberly Fair to give us a closing. oh my God. I think this is it. I'm getting too much laughter.
I had this idea before that, but they kind of, they each made, it took about 5 minutes or a few minutes to make their best case for what they believe happened here.
Swallow. Dude, hit the mute button when you're going to swallow, Kevin. It's gross.
Nobody has to come on.
Fucking
so
gross.
It's just,
you're a disgusting human being, Kevin. You are truly
a great
disgusting.
idea. So I don't know if that means she wants to do it or not, or is interested.
No,
I'm not even
she
sure
doesn't.
when this would
You're
be.
a disgusting
I know
human.
tomorrow night.
Even True Wino probably doesn't want to do your show. I mean, True Wino, who has nobody following her, even she's like, I don't know if I have time to do Kevin's show.
Me and Dave and Tom are doing a show on the NFL draft. So anybody who's here that's interested in the NFL, big draft for the Patriots. We have the third pick in the draft. So please tune into that if you're a sports fan. But we won't be discussing the Karen Reed case at all or any true crime. We're just going to be discussing the NFL. That's it. But so when might we do this actual show with Lauren? Well, I don't know. It's not scheduled. She hasn't agreed to it yet. She has kind of her own ideas about what she wants to do with it. But if we do it something like that, then maybe Saturday. I don't know. There's a chance we might actually hear the opening arguments Friday too. So I don't know if that would affect this. We'll know by tomorrow. If so, first they have to seat 5 jurors tomorrow. Now they got 7 today, so there's a chance of that. And then the judge has to decide whether opening arguments in the case will be Friday or Monday. I don't really know. We all want to keep this case moving, so I hope they start on Friday. But I have a feeling that they would wait till Monday, because that would give them time to submit more motions, or even might give the defense more time to look at
I
the
think I've
voting.
had enough for him tonight. I want to thank everyone for listening, supporting us, subscribing. Please subscribe, like, share. I'm not sure when we'll be back, but we're gonna have more guests. I got more guests planned. People want to come on this show. Unlike Kevin's show, people actually want to come on this show. What I want to do is I'm going to close tonight with Tom CPU, who Kevin put down. He's like, "Oh, Dave would do a better job." I don't think so. I'm not anti-Dave, but I don't think he would do as good as Tom CPU. I saw the shade. I think it bothers Kevin that Tom CPU now has more subscribers than Kevin. I think that's the truth. I think that the new truth is Kevin is now jealous of Tom CPU. So let's finish off with Tom CPU tonight.
Ted, what do you think about the trial, the whole thing so far?
Well, I think I was impressed that they were able to pick 4 jurors the first day. I didn't think they were going to get that many. So we're, 12 more to go? And I hope they finish that process quickly so we can get underway and get to the good stuff, the evidence and, the arguments on both sides.
So you obviously have more documents and you're privileged to more information.
Yeah.
What can you tell us that you can't necessarily go out there and say possible? Is that
no, I don't do that. I mean, pretty much everything that we've seen, we've reported, and I think you guys are pretty familiar with all the documents too. I feel like there are people who are following it, like you, just as closely as us, who are in kind of the mainstream media. So I think most everything's out there. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to hurt the defense that they're not able to, in opening statements, come out and point fingers. To me, that seems like, so they're going to have to weave it in through testimony. And I see that as a challenge for them. But I think that she had to let the third party in, or that would have been a huge grounds for appeal.
what do you think the challenges are for the prosecution? Like for the prosecution, the prosecution has hurdles they have to get over, obviously.
Absolutely,
What do you think their hurdles
the-
are?
the- So, she is innocent until proven guilty, and all you need is reasonable doubt. And when you start looking at some of the weird things that happened in this case, and if the jury gets to hear some of those strange things that I don't think happen in 99% of the cases out there, I think, if you have a jury that's vested and listening, that they might have some of the same questions that everybody else has.
How do you think it's going to end?
I don't know. I don't want to handicap it. I don't want to predict it because I could be wrong. I don't know. I think second-degree murder was a pretty heavy charge for this crime. So that's essentially second degree is not premeditation, but deliberate, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So she didn't plan in advance, but she wanted to kill him or committed a crime where she knew that she could kill him in the process. And that's a pretty heavy charge.
All right, one more question. The significance of the courthouse itself with the Zacco Vanzetti trial back then,
Yeah.
and this trial here, and the potential of what it possibly could be on the fringe. What do you think about
All right, help me understand what the question.
the fringe of it actually being a police cover-up and actually people being involved and all the things that the defense is saying? That all comes true, right?
Right.
Hypothetically.
Okay.
What do you think this courthouse with Zacco and Vanzetti, you think that trial and this trial together could possibly change?
The fact that the feds have already looked at this and we don't have any, I think if anybody was going to come in, if anyone was going to come in and say, hey, we found something, stop this, it would be the feds. That hasn't happened. I'm not sure if it ever will happen. So I think I would have put most of my eggs in the basket of the feds to do that. And I don't know. I think that this is going to continue. And I don't think that we'll ever, I think at the end of this whole thing, there's still going to be a lot of people who feel one way and a lot of people feel, I don't think we're ever going to get this resolution that maybe people want.
Listen, thank you. Have a great day, Ted.